Hey everybody, we are live again. How's it going?
It is going good. How about you guys? Good to be back, and fresh air and oxygen for everyone on this expedition.
Slightly brighter than the bottom of the North Atlantic, I'd say.
It's less claustrophobic. Would you agree?
Yes, fresh air is always nice.
And we do have Josh Noble with us again, as well as Matthew Smathers from Storied Treasures. You guys remember them from the last stream. Matt, would you mind dropping a link down to your channel in the live chat, because we had a whole bunch of people who were asking for a link to your channel, and Josh, if you have one that you'd like to drop in the live chat as well, we had a bunch of people asking about that in our previous stream as well.
Alright, will do.
Alrighty.
I'm dropping the link to the Facebook group, just because for those who are going to be watching this and eventually watching the replay, the YouTube channel is not yet ready, but I am in the process of getting content put together, courtesy of the worldwide quarantine. So I got all the time on my hands to post stuff. So I'm just getting it all together. But there's a lot of content on the Facebook page.
Right. And it's kind of obligatory, we should at least mention this. For any of you who are not aware of what this is Titanic Honor and Glory, or at least their current demo, better known as Demo 3. For people who are new to the world of Honor and Glory, there were two demos that were released prior to this one that are no longer available, which is where it gets the Demo 3 title from, but if you're on their website and only notice one demo, that would be why. They were essentially a smaller version of this that they combined to form this. So that's, if anyone's confused, that is why that is a thing.
And, also, for those who are interested in this,
game for a while, and it's coming along so nicely. They've really worked hard to get every detail as correct as possible, technically and historically, and I can't wait to play this game because it's going to be incredible.
It really is. It will also be VR supported, which is something that very much excites me, and currently this demo that we are playing is... one second. We are getting reports from Blue Star Line that audio is a bit quiet, so we'll turn up our audio just a bit, and I will turn up the audio from the game a bit, so we'll see how that balances out. Blue Star Line, if you want to let me know how that sounds, I appreciate it. But it is worth noting that this demo, while it is the only one that they have out of Titanic at the moment, in the next couple of weeks they are going to be releasing Britannic, Patroness of the Mediterranean, which will be a real-time syncing experience of the Britannic that also includes, from what I understand, a decent portion of the ship's interiors, as well as her exterior, and the interiors will be represented in both the ocean liner and hospital ship variations. So that is coming out in the next few weeks. They should have a trailer out on their YouTube channel as well within the next few days. I believe I've heard that it's coming out next week, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're looking for more content from Honor and Glory, that should be on the way very soon. Oh, game sound is fine, just our voices. I will fix that. We're going to turn up Discord. There we go.
So worth noting for anyone who is just tuning in, this demo number 3, as he previously stated, was the 3rd installment, and the demos just kind of successively get better. Demo number 1 and demo number 2 are both, gone. You can only get demo 3 on the Titanic Honor and Glory website. This one takes us at Titanic's fitting out. So she has just barely been fitted out. She's completed for all intents and purposes. And you notice all these coal trucks, John Milligan and Company Limited. These are all massive bunkers, so she can continue on her maiden voyage. But even so, this is not all the coal Titanic will take on. due to the coal strike which was taking place during this period in history, the ship, which would famously cause the layup of other liners in Southampton, would need many, 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 many more truckloads, train loads, and shiploads of coal before she could make her maiden voyage.
And with the coal came people, because they, yeah, it's a not well-known fact. Even if without the coal strike, the Titanic would have been less filled. There were a lot of passengers and a lot of crew that were transferred to the Titanic due to the coal strike and due to the cancellations of other vessels.
We have a question from Coldplay Me, who is asking how old the demo is. I believe this came out in 2016?
2017.
2017?
Yep.
Thank you for the correction, Matthew.
No problem. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. So for the benefit of everyone who's watching, we will be keeping our eyes on the chat, and one of us will fight to answer your question first, as quickly as we can. Anyway, whoever can answer the question fastest.
And here, I will go ahead and put a link in the chat. Sorry for the static camera for just a minute. I'm going to drop a link in the chat just so people can go to the website of Titanic Honor and Glory and download this demo for themselves if they would like.
And of course, if you look up above the ship, the crane, which you can see it was nicknamed Hercules. It was built in Germany. It's the largest floating crane, on Earth. And it was used to hoist the funnels, the boilers, the engines, and other parts of the Titanic into her during the fitting out phase.
Oh, while you are
Everything else
mentioning that, we can do some fun things with this demo that don't usually get shown off all that well, but to highlight Hercules, I will go ahead and mess with our field of view just a little bit. There we go. You get a nice zoomed-in telephoto-style view of the crane there.
Sweet.
See
I was just going to kind of make a reference because a lot of people are unaware. It's just kind of a given because the Titanic at that time in 1912 and in the years prior was the largest man-made moving object on Earth, and consequently Harland and Wolff, for its construction, needed to demolish their pre-existing shipyard. So they were building 3 ships side by side in the space that Titanic and Olympic occupied in their 2 large aerial gantries.
So
consequently, the cranes, the facilities, and the mechanics necessary to even fit Titanic out with her machinery necessitated the building of that crane.
And I do have a nice zoomed-in view of the aerial gantry in the background here as we're talking about this. We have just had a very intriguing question from Laura F. She asks, would they have had fewer ice warnings due to the coal strike reducing the number of ships in the Atlantic? That's actually a question I have not heard or thought about before.
That is a fascinating question.
There was more ships. Probably would have been more ships out there, and most likely would have been more ice warnings. But the fact is that they did change course as a result of those ice warnings and such, to take a more southerly route, which would have avoided the majority of the ice. And so I really don't know what else they could have done besides that with the knowledge that they had at that time. I doubt it would have made that much of a difference.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, the wireless system would have broken down. Phillips and Bride they would have been swamped with messages, and I think in hindsight 2020, I feel like, most of the ice warnings, had there been more of them, would have just been ignored, just like the previous one. Or the one that really mattered was, I think, a message from the Masaba, and it actually gave the latitude and longitude for the ice directly in front of Titanic. And then, of course, we have the Californian, who famously blasted Jack Phillips' eardrums out because they were so close. Those 2 ice warnings, one that was just ignored, it was spiked, and the other one that was abruptly cut off. Those 2 warnings were the 2 pieces of paper that could have saved Titanic. I feel like it could go either way. maybe due to the abundance of messages, it could have been, like, hey, there's a lot of people warning us about ice. It could have gone that way. Or it could have been like, oh, man, tell these ships, these bloody operators, to stop sending us so many weather reports. You're flooding the airwaves, mate.
So
It could have gone either way.
Matt, just so you know, that was a terrible impression. I just wanted to point that out. Of the operators. But
Yeah.
Where were Bride and Phillips actually from? I don't know that off the top of my head, but that would be a good question for Josh, I believe.
You mean right now?
Yeah. Where were they from? Do you know off the top of your head?
Phillips was from Godalming, England. I forget where exactly Bride was from. I believe England as well. They joined the Titanic in Belfast. They would have either been about to board or had already boarded. I forget the dates that they boarded. But most of the main crew of the Titanic boarded here. The officers, the operators, and a few other people. Enough people for her to take her sea trials. And just so the audience knows, this is dated April 1st. This demo is for April 1st, which was originally supposed to be the date of the sea trials. And so I'm guessing the operators would have been on board at this date. And the sea trials had to be pushed back until the next day because of the strong winds. And by the way, Spencer, this is a great close-up. And it's also sad when you think of what the stern looks like today and what it looked like as referenced in Titanic VR.
Yeah, this crane right here that I'm looking at that's up on starboard A deck is the one that's now kind of hanging over the side, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to throw out here, just to finish the earlier train of thought, Harold Bride was actually also from England. He was born in a little town called Nunhead, England. Nunhead, it's a prefect. Am I saying that right? It's a precinct, rather. He was also from London, England. But yeah, I kind of wanted to jump on that one train of thought you guys were following right now about how completely devastated the stern section is. It's kind of a weird contrast, especially we had that big long stream previously over the wreck of Titanic. Now we're seeing it brand new.
Mm-hmm.
I do love messing with these field of view settings. I've just noticed this. I've never seen this before. The kind of a recessed hole that the stern post of the rudder disappears up into to head into the steering gear room. I've got it. It's very visible in this demo even, which I did not realize until just now. But no, this field of view stuff, it does make for some interesting stuff. There's a lot more detail on this exterior model than you can really tell there is when you're up close to it. But you step back, you can see.
I mean, it is fully modeled. It is completely modeled.
It is, and they have greatly improved their exterior model since this demo was released, and they actually have several videos on their channel talking about that, just for anyone who's noticing kind of the low-res window textures and that sort of thing. A lot of that has been fixed since, and they have made it very clear in prior streams and videos of their own that this is not what the final game model will look like. It will be much better. But I feel like it's as good a time as any to head up the gangplank and head into the ship.
Let's get on board. Unless we're gonna... Oh, wait, you definitely gotta do the thing. Spence, you have to take us into the tool shed so we can make the conspiracy theorists happy.
Oh boy.
No, let's not, and say we did.
But it's
that's fair.
It's just right. It's right there. I can see it. But you can also see the Thompson drydock is over there, as is the aerial gantry. We can get some nice close-ups over there. We might as well head over that way and just head over and kind of show a little bit more of Belfast. We can talk a bit about Belfast while we're out here as well, because while I have not been there, you two both have. So feel free to share your wonderful stories of Belfast.
Sorry about that.
Make me jealous.
As a matter of fact, there's a some sort of contraption. I think it's a oil rig or something like that. That's on the spot where the Titanic is in this demo, and where the Titanic was in history. There's they don't have a ship there in modern day. And I should also point out that they got rid of the chimneys over here near the Thompson dry dock.
These two
Yeah,
big
I
brick
didn't.
ones.
I looked for the chimneys when I was roaming through Belfast, and I didn't see any of them.
Yeah, those chimneys are gone, unfortunately, but the actual pump house is still there, and you're able to tour it. And part of it is now a cafe, and part of it is still the pump house, and you're able to see the machinery and stuff that was used to flood it and to empty it.
Which is quite fascinating. There is this little tiny hut over here. I forget what this is. This is. I think these are supposed to be outhouses, but there's nothing in them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's for anyone who's been interested, I'm sure Mr. Noble can back me up that going to Belfast and seeing the spot where Titanic was built is more than worth the price of admission, so to speak. It's a wonderful place to visit, beautiful city, a lot of history.
Also,
Yeah, it has an
these
interesting.
reflections.
I have an unpopular opinion that the Titanic Belfast Museum needs more access and more artifacts. Josh, can you back me up on that one?
No, it's a truth. I mean, there are a few artifacts in Belfast, in Titanic Belfast, but if you are going to visit Belfast, you'd need to visit the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum, which is a bit of a hike away from Belfast if you're visiting, but it's well worth it because the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum has so many artifacts. Titanic Belfast has a few, but they rely more on visuals and um, state-of-the-art technology and things to give you the experience, and it's beautifully done. It's very well done. Um, when I was there, they did have a few artifacts. They had a ticket from the launch. They had a workbook that mentioned Thomas Andrews, and they also had a letter from Mr. Hart on the 14th of April, and the big ship plans used in the inquiries. And so they had a few things there, but not nearly as much as they could have had. And of course, they have the nomadic, the largest artifact or piece of memorabilia related to the Titanic, still in existence above
Yeah,
water.
yeah, I was gonna say above water.
So,
And
oh, you continue. I was just gonna note we're looking at the aerial gantry at the moment, which is completely gone now. But even in this demo, there is one slight inaccuracy. Britannic would be under construction at this point, would it not?
I don't think so. It would have been built fairly soon after the Titanic, but there was a bit of a
Not
gap. There
100%.
were other
I'm actually gonna look that up.
Because
There were
I could have
because
sworn.
Titanic was 401 and Britannic was 433, and there were other ships um, in between the Titanic and Britannic.
Okay, yes, that was a nice catch, Spence.
Was it under
Her
construction?
her yes, her keel was laid on November 30th of 1911.
So how far along would it have been at this point? This is
Absolutely
April 1st,
be
1912.
Yeah, she would absolutely, at least a skeleton would be visible in the gantry at the bare minimum.
I think Matt Dwinkler at one point addressed that and mentioned that they just kind of plopped the aerial gantry in there as sort of an Easter egg, but it wasn't meant to be taken all that seriously. Although they do have the little part of the aerial gantry where Nomadic was built is visible there.
Yeah, that's where the nomadic and traffic were built. Interestingly, the gantry was demolished in the 70s. But if you go to that spot where the aerial gantry was, you will find that there are still bases and still parts of the aerial gantry in the concrete, and you will find parts of it lying around and stuff. And um, yeah, you can still imagine what it was like. And of course, the museum itself is the height of the Titanic's bow, which allows you to visualize things. And to be honest, the best place to visualize the Titanic and how large she was is the Thompson dry dock. Just to stand there and to look up, like I was saying in the last demo, and to look up and see the hotel, which is the height of where Titanic was, and to just stand there was just truly magnificent. And to stand on the gate as well, pretty much where almost where we're standing, and uh, you can touch the metal, the same gate that was there, and I think the blocks, if I'm not mistaken, are the same blocks that Titanic rested on. Um, and so yeah, it's just amazing to be there, and it really gets you in touch with Titanic. It's the closest you will be have to seeing being where Titanic was for yourself, except for the bottom of the ocean. It's the closest you'll be. So
Oh, and
yeah,
while we're over here, I can get us a nice up-close view of the crane.
Hmm.
Let's go.
I was gonna say, I unfortunately missed the Thompson dry dock, because when I was passing through Belfast, it was late at night, and I literally jumped off my train connection, sacrificed a few hours because I was like, I'm here. I don't know when I'm going to come back to Belfast, and I want to see where Titanic was built. So I jumped off my train. It must have been about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. It was really cold, and I went over to where the slipways were, where the Errol gantry used to be. But I unfortunately did not see the Thompson dry dock. I had never been there before, so I had no idea how to get anywhere from where I was at, and it was late at night. So I missed the dry dock. However, I have to say that standing, they have Titanic's slip marked, so you can actually see the complete on the floor. To stand on the tip of the bow on that chalk, on that mark that's on the floor, and look straight up, like literally, you're looking straight up at the museum. It's incredible to imagine that that is the height of the Titanic's bow at launch time, and it's just, it never loses. You never lose size or scale of the ship at that moment. You realize, just, my God, this thing's huge. It's much bigger than you give it credit for, because it's one thing to be standing alongside of it, going up the gangplank, but trust us when we say it's a whole lot different seeing this thing from the waterline up, keel looking up. There's still a third of the ship underwater, and it's massive.
All right, so we are heading back towards the gangplank to get to the interior at this point. We had Blue Star Line was commenting with VR. You can get to some interesting places in this. I did want to mention.
Yes, you can.
I have done this in VR on Oculus Rift, and you can, especially if you have. There's a tool that kind of lets you edit your play space while you're in game. You can get to some really weird places.
and
Sadly,
Samus has done that quite extensively.
yeah, and it is worth a note that even with the Rift, I was able to get into some places without doing the edit thing that you're not really supposed to be. It does kind of get weird when you're in those places, though, because like not all of it's properly modeled, just beyond view. My favorite one.
Remember our Titanic VR experience?
Oh man. You and the stern and just getting all up close and personal with PSVR. That was.
Bro, that was epic. You can't take that away from me. That was epic. We got into so much of the stern model.
You're right. We did.
Oh, a shout.
Sorry, mate. You're breaking up there.
I was saying shout out to Josh Cusiak. He just joined us.
Oh. Well, hi, Josh.
Hi, other Josh.
But no, where I was going with that, though, the early access
I'm
version
feeling
of this
strangely outnumbered.
But no, with the early access version of this demo, before they did the public release, they had a test version that had, for one thing, a lot more birds, if anyone here remembers that. But no, there was a glitch in the original version of this demo that is no longer there, where if you went down into the third-class dining room, there was a panel on the wall where they hadn't rendered collision, and you could just straight up fall through that panel to the waterline, and then you could escape out into Belfast and explore the entire area. And I really wish I had recorded myself doing that, but I spent probably 4 hours walking around Belfast until I found a spot where they hadn't modeled the floor, and fell through it, and just kind of permanently fell forever.
Oh wait, I was gonna say, before we go aboard Titanic, we need game sound for this moment.
For the whistle?
Yep, we definitely need.
It's on. It played, but I don't think I can get it to trigger again.
Josh Kuziak asks, what do you make of the Carter family and how messed up the family was?
Josh, do you repeat that?
Yeah, that's a complicated question. But essentially, they were really I think the only family to divorce citing the Titanic disaster is one of the reasons. There's a lot of stories I've heard about the Carters, and they didn't really have that happy of a marriage, and there's no telling what she told, whether she told the truth or not in the divorce regarding how William Carter left them at boat 4.
Might have just been the excuse.
Before they did. Some of it I'm sure was true, and of course the line that he supposedly said when they got there to the Carpathia about how he had just had breakfast and he thought they were dead. They were going through a divorce, and as you probably know, there's what he said, what she said, and then there's the truth in those situations. And
usually somewhere between the two.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But they were an interesting family, and they all seem to be successful and lived good lives. Lucille Carter, the mother, later remarried, and she actually was in France at the outbreak of World War One, had a hard time getting out, got to England, married her second husband, and then went back to America on the Olympic. And from it looked like they had a good marriage. I don't know too much about their personal lives, but it's a very complicated issue with the Carters.
So we're gonna go into there in just a minute, but first we have to visit an old friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all.
Yep.
It's been done.
It has been done. Well, hey, maybe in hindsight, maybe we actually did the Titanic a favor. Maybe they'll have to rewire the electrics, and they'll miss the iceberg now. Yeah. You're welcome, Titanic. We have helped.
We secretly fixed.
We're helping.
We fixed the experimental radar that was on board. What do they call it back then? Radio direction finder.
This is the door, by the way, that was left open in the wreck.
Oh yeah, this one over here. I had moved on.
Yeah.
The deck loading door.
The port side.
Sorry, for those of you who don't know, there's a delay. But this is where Lightoller sent crew members to open the door, and people give Lightoller flack for that and for other things, but really he was trying to think. He was trying to be smart about it, and really he was making it harder. He sent crew members down to open the door, and his plan was to fill the boats partially, and then from the boat deck, and then fill them the rest of the way through the gangway doors. And it just didn't happen. They were lower. The boats were lowered, and they just rode away instead of going around and waiting for people. And the crew members he sent down below were never seen again. And it ended up hastening the flooding, most likely, when the seawater came up and the door was open and freely came in.
Yeah, a big giant opening. It's kind of funny. I think the square footage of the iceberg damage was nothing compared. The door had a larger opening square footage wise than the iceberg damage, I think.
I believe it was The iceberg damage at some point, they calculated it was like 12 square feet, something like that.
Yeah, 11.6 and a half. Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure they calculated the door was something to the effect of 12 square feet when open. So yeah, it doubled it, something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting that the door was found open on the wreck, and later it actually fell off the hinges when it during an expedition. Like there was a submarine nearby, and they watched it fall. It wasn't intentionally taken off, as some people I've seen have suggested. But it fell, and they later recovered it, and it's been on display. I've seen it in an RMST exhibit.
Yeah,
I believe I've seen it as well. I really wish they would release the footage of it falling, because that, to me, is probably some of the most fascinating footage you could get from the wreck, is like an actual large chunk just falling. And
I would
the
love to
odds
see
of that
that
being
too.
filmed were just astronomical.
Yeah.
Hey Spence,
Yeah.
Coldplay me's commenting on the windows.
Oh, yes, they are very nice.
See how nice and beautifully modeled they are. And
Yeah,
Josh was
nice.
asking,
Nice all of them.
Mr. Cusiak was asking about what do we make of the Britannic game. Spence and
comes
yeah,
out.
I am quite excited about that. I can't say anything here, but what I can say is join Matt DeWinkler's Patreon. Even at $2 a month, you get access to a Discord server where they share little teasers and snippets of things that are coming up, and they've been doing a lot more talking about Britannic on that Discord server, and I can't, I can't say anything because it's a thing, but join that and you get a lot of access to see things along those lines that are pretty cool. The other thing that they do is if you join at the highest tier, I think it's like $50 a month, they send you a 3D printed model every month. It's not usually a liner. The first one that they did, though, is why I bring it up, but you were just talking about the D-deck shell door. The first model that they're shipping out is going to be a 3D printed, very precise replica of the D-deck shell door. So if anyone is interested in that, Matt DeWinkler has a Patreon, and all of the funding from that Patreon goes to make more of what you're looking at. So,
Hey, Spencer, can you go back into the dining saloon real quick?
yes, of course.
I just wanted to point something out while we're in there. Go all the way down to the end as far as you can go in the dining saloon.
Right. I believe that is going to be right about here. Yep. Okay. Right here. And then back towards where Father Brown's photo was taken.
Yeah, they allow you to sort of recreate the scene where Father Brown's photo was taken, and you're able to see the changes they made, where
I
where
turned it into black and white mode.
with you're able to see the arches. They discovered that the arches were different while they were working on researching the game and stuff, and no one had noticed this before, to our knowledge, and it's quite fascinating. There's a bunch of passengers in the photo, and I've often wondered who they all are, but unfortunately, you don't get to make out their faces very well.
Josh Kuziak is asking if we have a link to the Patreon. I don't currently. I can Google it. I am the one doing all the camera work for this and making it move, so I can go find it, but that's just going to be a
I'll
shot for a minute. You got it, Matt?
Yeah, I'll pull up the Patreon for Titanic Honor and Glory.
Alrighty.
Stand by, everyone.
Shock Factor 22 is saying, I may be wrong on that. Given the length of the D-deck door in conjunction to the iceberg damage, I may be wrong. No, you are correct on that, Shock Factor. You are completely correct on that. They calculated it's roughly double the size of the iceberg damage, so it is entirely likely that it hastened it by about... They might have had another half hour to 40 minutes on top of what they did if that door had not been open, if I had to guess. Josh, would you say that's a fair estimate?
I love the piano here. Yeah, I would say that's a fair estimate.
Yeah.
But I wanted to point out, just from behind the piano, this is what kind of view that Theodore Brayley had while he was playing the piano for the passengers. He was able to see a lot of the people coming down and watch everything that was going on from that little corner, and the band members as well.
I really wish there was like a crouch button because I'd sit down.
Yeah, and you, of course, I love also the touch that you have the White Star Line music books there. There was one taken off the Titanic by one of the cross-channel passengers. I think it was Richard May, and who was a member of the Odell Party. And it's last I saw, it was on display in Pigeon Forge at the Titanic Museum.
Oh, the sheet music book. Oh, and speaking
Yeah,
of Father Brown photos, here we go. Continue. You're good. I was just setting up a photo.
But yeah, that's where the quartet was. There were two bands on the Titanic essentially. They were split up between a quartet and a trio. The quartet played in the forward part of the ship mainly, to the reception room, and the trio mostly stuck to the aft grand staircase in the reception room outside the a la carte restaurant and the Cafe Parisien. So no matter where you were dining in first class, you got the band to play while you were dining.
And while we're on the subject of the band, I don't know if he's watching. My friend Justin Litke gifted me a copy of Those Brave Fellows by George Behe for my birthday, which was April 14th. And it is just written about Titanic's band. I've been reading it over the last couple of days. It is a very, very good book, and honestly one of the better ones that I've read that gives you a sense of what shipboard life would be like for crew. I really like they've done a book that focuses much more on an individual person or group of people and their actions throughout history rather than trying to give the context of the historical event and minor details on individual people kind of as a side note. It gives you a lot better of a feel of what it was like rather than just kind of telling you factually what happened. So if anyone is interested in that, it's a very good book and I would highly recommend it.
Anything George Behe is incredibly researched and very well written. He has a gift for writing, especially writing for Titanic.
Hey Josh, opinion piece at the moment. Also Matt, if you're here. If not, then just stay quiet. Third class first. Should we go to the lower decks or should we go up first?
Let's go down first and then up.
Down first.
So that we're not backtracking.
All right. No worries. Josh Kuziak asks what we think of the current plans for the SS United States. Well, no, there was something recently where something about an Airbnb buyout sort of thing where they were going to turn it into like partially a rentable hotel kind of thing like the Queen Mary, and they were going to restore it, and that other parts of it would be kind of a museum, and that some other parts of it, I don't remember what the exact plans were. I remember thinking that it was better than just leaving it there, but that I kind of wish it would have been one of those where they restored it fully and then made it into a museum ship, because if I recall correctly, they'd done a structural analysis of the United States at some point and determined that it was something like 97% still intact, at least structurally. It just looks like hell.
Yeah. Okay, you told me to be quiet. May I talk?
Oh no, you're good. I was saying if you're not here, then just be quiet.
By the way, we're over by where Margaret Brown, or also known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, stayed.
Yes, we are. Actually, I really wish I could just I wish I had done this. I could do a scene transition back and forth to fade in and out from a shot from Titanic VR and a shot here to kind of show how they're represented crosswise. But
yeah.
This right here, one sec. There we go.
I wanted to make a semi-quick comment about the SS United States. Spence, you are completely correct. They did a hull analysis, and they determined that the metal, the actual structure of the ship, is actually even now, the ship is seaworthy. She is better, structurally sound, right now in her dilapidated condition, than most modern ships sailing around, which is remarkable.
Hey, Matt.
Many layers of paint.
I'll be honest with the SS United States. Money-wise, they got to do something because
Yeah.
like I haven't even donated to the Conservancy and stuff because I haven't seen them doing anything and anything worthwhile anyway. And if other people had been running it, I'm pretty sure they could have found something to do with it. But instead, it's just been sitting there collecting dust and rusting. And to be honest, it's just I don't like the way they've been doing the Conservancy and they've been doing things right now. Yeah, they need to do something with the SSUS, and if not, they need to give her a proper farewell, either scrapping or sinking her.
That would make for a very intriguing artificial reef, just saying.
Yeah, anything is better than just where it's at right now.
Yeah. Before I move on from this section, because I've kind of been lingering here for a while, I kind of want to move on. It's just like a little cubby. I wanted to point out, in our last stream, we were talking about how Margaret Brown came out of her cabin and mentioned that she saw a steward cranking down one of the watertight doors on the deck below. And that is this right here. This is the crank. They would have had a hand crank that would be in this cabinet here. They'd open this up, there'd be the little hand crank, they'd lock it in here, and then they'd twist it, and that would drop the watertight door on the deck below, which is also why it's labeled watertight door deck plate right there. Question though, Matt, has this moved? Because I swear in this demo previously it wasn't there, it was over by the door that went down into the forwardy deck. I think it feels like
it's because the reason being, when you understand the way the spindle is connected on the deck below, it's actually in between the metal plates of the bulkhead. So this is correct. The door is directly to the left of the plate, basically in the position where that central corridor is. The door actually doesn't go vertically on E deck, F deck rather. The door goes from the side.
Gotcha.
It's an outboard closing door, so it would actually be positioned midship. You turn the spindle and it cranks it manually to the left to close the bulkhead.
Gotcha. Oh, that makes sense.
On the deck below.
Should we go down to F deck first, or should we head out into Scotland Road and explore the rest of E deck and the third class dining saloon, boiler room, that stuff? We can take care of the Turkish baths before that, if that's better.
Yeah, that'll work.
Turkish baths? All right,
we'll head down.
We kind of missed the Turkish bath. I'm sad we missed the Turkish bath, except for a quick here it is on the last stream.
We did.
It is okay. We can give ourselves a break. It was the wreck. It was dark. It was degraded. It was a beautiful, close to the beauty of this room on this day.
In the wreck, it looks like what you see in this demo, except not as cool or beautiful. But I wanted to say, Shock Factor 22 asked if memory serves, RMS Titanic's Grand Staircase didn't have the Honor and Glory clock, which it was a mirror, wasn't it? I know Olympic had the clock. I don't know if Titanic did. Titanic did have the clock, and Matt DeWinkler actually addressed this in one of his recent videos, I believe, on Titanic University.
Which is essentially a fantastic channel.
Yes, it is. And but basically, that is a myth. Titanic was not completely finished in certain ways, and passengers remembered that certain elements of their cabins were not installed and other things. But with the clock, that was installed. That was in place.
So we should mention, when you're going through this demo, there's a lot of garbage left around in various places of the ship, and the Turkish bath is no exception. That's workers in Belfast. In the demo, you hear Robin voicing over, mentioning that the workers have left the ship in a very poor state, and if I'm not mistaken, that is actually true. Like, they left a whole bunch of garbage and litter around the ship when they left it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
also
they're.
wanted
Hmm?
to point out that with the Turkish bath, stewards and maids and stewardesses, they stayed down the hall that Spencer just walked down before coming into the Turkish bath, and I kind of feel for them because
This one here.
not only is that a very narrow corridor, and they were bunking with other people, and then they come to the Turkish bath, and that was pretty much their life, except for maybe going up for dinner upstairs. But this little area of the ship was their life while on board. I'm sure it got very claustrophobic to some of them.
Probably. I've not actually heard that before. Do you know if they were allowed up onto like the boat deck to go for a walk when they were off duty?
There's a couple of questions I'd like to jump into. First question, I've noticed there's the blueprints. Some people are asking questions about the blueprints or the lack thereof, and I'd like to address that. The Titanic's blueprints were long thought to have been lost because they were saved by Harland and Wolff and by the White Star Line following the disaster, and of course, naturally, because the international inquiry that transpired as a result of the disaster. Germany bombed. Germany bombed Harland and Wolff during World War II, and they believed that all the blueprints were lost until about maybe 10 or so years ago. Somebody was doing renovations in the old Harland and Wolff buildings. They found a room that had been bricked up, plastered over, and just looked like a wall. And in that room was the storage rooms for the ship's blueprints for most of the Harland and Wolff shipyard construction, including the Titanic and the Olympic. So there is a plethora of Titanic documentation that is available now that was not available about 10 to 20 years ago. However, it is true. Many of the ship's blueprints are missing, and we have to rely on existing photographs of the Olympic and combined with photos of the Titanic and passengers' testimonies to recreate the ship's blueprints to the best of people's ability. Honor and Glory has got an incredible research.
Matt,
yeah.
Check me if I'm wrong here, because I remember hearing this somewhere. You might have even been the one that told me this. Didn't some construction worker doing the renovations in Belfast just mistake it for junk and like throw a good amount of those into a dumpster before somebody jumped in and realized what they were and pulled them out of the literal trash?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a rumor, and it seems to have a basis in fact, but for the life of me, I have never been able to confirm it. The story goes that this construction worker, when they, the one who uncovered the room, they were just under contract. They, for whatever reason, didn't think they should, report in, hey, we found a dusty old closet full of old papers and tiles. So they literally threw the tiles out, and they threw everything in a big dumpster. From what I was told, a dumpster diver who was looking from Titanic, they were looking for souvenirs from Titanic, into the motherlode of all motherloads. They were up to their waist in historical documents, papers, tile, samples of tile, carpeting. God knows what was in that dumpster, but needless to say, they went to the authorities and went to the Harland and Wolff archive office, and most... Jill's just commented. Tom McCluskey said that they pulled the important papers out of the trash. Yeah, so they did rescue most of the items, most if not all of the historical material that ended up in the dumpster.
Well, good.
But yeah, that's the story as I was told.
So, a side note while we're here, I just kind of want to take a moment to walk up close to this clock, and everyone that's watching the stream right now, just pay attention to the minute hand. I just need people to know that the clocks in the game actually work already. So you can watch the minute hand slowly moving as each second.
Joel Martinez, he's asking, what's this channel about? YouTube just recommended. Mr. Martinez,
It's
Spencer, you answer him. This is your channel.
yes. Well, okay. So this is a channel created by my wife and I. We normally just kind of do gaming videos on it, but I have a very passionate interest in Titanic and history in general, and I also have Matt and Josh here who are very prominently featured as guests over the last couple of streams that we've done. So most of the time, this channel isn't particularly historically focused, but every now and again, you'll see this little group of people that are online here, and we'll do streams that are going to be pretty historically focused. Matt and I, every now and then, we'll stream World of Warships. Every now and then, I play some sort of history-related game, but there's not usually as strong of a focus as there is right now. But because it's the anniversary, we have Titanic stuff going on, and so that's probably why it got recommended to you.
Joe Carlier has been mentioning Tom McCluskey, and I wanted to give him basically a nod because a lot of the information that we have about Titanic's construction comes because of him. Harland and Wolff wasn't really that forthcoming with Titanic archives and Titanic really anything. And Tom McCluskey was the archivist for Harland and Wolff, and he was able to get the information and the blueprints and things out more towards the general public. A lot of the information we have available today is because of him.
Huh.
And so I just wanted to point that out.
Mm.
But yeah, we're in the third class dining saloon, and what's interesting is they separated it between single men and families, and it's sort of a product of its time. They were afraid of improprieties happening between people in third class, I guess.
Can I
But,
just say that I think it's really wonderful that the artists at Harland and Wolff had the foresight to include a lovely portrait of a man who does not exist yet that would later develop a game based on their ship that they're building in the third class dining saloon.
They really
They had
had
four. They
great
were
amount of
they were
foresight.
forward thinkers back then.
They were.
Mhm.
And
They were
Josh,
really forward thinkers.
If you've not seen it, there's
We're
a
talking
picture of
about
Kyle.
since we're talking about forward thinking. Obviously they were concerned, separating the men and the women in third class. Obviously they had a legitimate concern so that no one would go sneaking off into the cargo hold into the back seat of a car.
Yes.
Was that a stretch? It was a stretch.
It
but
might
was
have been a
Yeah,
stretch.
that
Quickly
was
to
a stretch.
dispel that myth just a little bit, because the movie didn't really... It wasn't inaccurate with the inclusion of a car, but in reality the car was disassembled and in a crate when it was on board the ship.
And it
Yeah.
should be mentioned that the car was owned by the Carters, who we talked about earlier. And the car
yes,
was
you're right.
faithfully recreated based on records that they have had of it from the Carters. I think his insurance claim.
Huh.
That's what I read, at least. And these postcards they come from actual postcards that existed at that time, the advertisements on the walls of different ships. And the White Star Line was owned by IMM. That's why you see other shipping lines being advertised. IMM, or International Mercantile Marine Company, was owned by, I think, JP Morgan. And
Yes.
White Star Line was just one of several shipping lines owned by the one parent company.
So something I was going to demonstrate a little bit better here, because we can't necessarily show the one outside Molly Brown's stateroom, but you can see the top and bottom of this one. This is the watertight door system we're talking about, where it comes over from the side. It goes up through the floor here.
Yeah, I was just gonna point that out. You can see how it closes horizontally as opposed to vertically.
And then this right here is right above where that was, but this is out on Scotland Road, and that's another one of those crankshafts there, which... Yep, there it is, and there's the little box that has the crank. So you'd come over here, you'd open this little box up, you'd grab the crank out, you'd walk over here, and you'd crankety-crankety-crank, and then bada-bing, bada-boom, you have a watertight seal. here.
Crankety, crankety, crank. You did that so well. Every time we see a
A what? A watertight door?
motioned.
All right. No, my specialty is sound effects. I am the unofficial sound designer for Honor and Glory. That's what's going on.
My specialty is voice impressions. No, not really. I had to say it.
Alrighty.
The silence is my. I rest my case.
You broke up there, so I couldn't actually hear what you said. These. Okay. This here. Somebody needs to check me again if I'm wrong here. This should be roped here. There would be one connecting it to the rail, and then down this way here, these posts up in Scotland Road, and that would be to control the inbound and outbound flow of traffic of passengers, if I'm not wrong.
No, I think you are implicit also serves a double purpose in the event of heavy seas to allow people a means to not crash into each other as well.
That is fair.
And I always thought it was interesting that the line extended.
Safety rail.
I also thought it was interesting that the line extended out down Scotland Road. And especially since Scotland Road was used by so many, is mainly used where the crew stay. A lot of these doors that you're seeing in the hallway were either to the boiler room or to the crew dormitories and bedrooms and lavatories. So they were all sort of mixed in through here.
Indeed.
It was an all-purpose hallway. And while we're down at this end, Spencer, can you go down? I think it's on the left side.
Yeah,
There's a room.
The room for the musicians.
Yes, sir.
There you go, right there.
That would be where I believe the trio stayed, because you had second class. There was a room in second class for the quartet, and there'd be basically they were second class, officially second class passengers, because they were contracted out by the Black Brothers.
Oh,
and
you can keep going here in just a second, Josh. I'm just going to let people on stream know what I'm doing here. Jill was noticing the grain on the walls and how nice that looks in-game, so while Josh is talking here, I'm going to go up and show one of my favorite places where that is a thing. But you continue, Josh.
Okay.
But yeah, they were contracted by the Black Brothers, just like the Marconi operators were contracted by the Marconi Company, and so they weren't direct employees of the White Star Line. They of course did as told by the officers, by the purser, but they were not direct employees of the White Star Line. They were not directly paid by them. So, yeah, they were officially traveling in second class on the Titanic.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm back up on the E-deck landing of the grand staircase here, just showing kind of how the light is reflecting off the grain on the walls because it looks really nice. But I'm going to head back down. And then we'll go down to the boiler rooms because we've gone all the way aft and we've done the third class saloon. We've peeked into the steward's lavatory here. Got some sinks over there.
And Elijah's asking, did any third class passengers stumble into the second class entrance because Scotland Road passes right by it? That is debatable, Elijah, though I have no doubt it probably did happen. I think it actually did, especially during the sinking as the third class were roaming around. But generally, Scotland Road was more of an alleyway, also called Parker Lane. Parker Lane / Scotland Road was predominantly an access companionway for the crew, and it was largely sealed off from first class. You really didn't have any access to Scotland Road, but it was possible to get access to the second class staircase if you really knew how to navigate the ship. I think if there were any cases of that, they were either guided that way or it was just dumb luck.
And
well, I mean,
pointed out.
Go ahead.
Hey, Spencer, can you go back to the entrance to the grand staircase?
Yes, I'm actually right there right
now. I wanted to point something out. Some people have, of course, it's by now a lot of you already probably have heard that it is a bit of a myth that a lot of the third-class passengers were kept down by the gates. There were some gates, but most of them were waist high, and they were really there as just to keep third class from mingling, especially when they were in port. And third class had to be processed a different way from first and second glass. But this is really what kept third class from getting up. Is you look at this door? It's very common. It's very plain. If it's closed, really, I mean, it just looks like any other door.
And you can see the back of it here.
And especially if you don't speak English and you don't know, it says emergency door. I mean, this is why they couldn't get up to the boat deck in time, because first of all, this area didn't actually flooded fairly quickly after the striking the iceberg. But also because, I mean, it looks like any other door. You could pass by it and not even know it.
Yeah. Scotland Road,
Speaking of things regarding the sinking...
glad they modeled this. Yeah, I'm really glad that the Honor and Glory team modeled Scotland Road to such an extent. You can just see how it's a long, open corridor. There are no doors. This right here, for those of you who are unaware, this is the top of what they call the ice cube tray. They say how Titanic's watertight compartments were open at the top, like an ice cube tray. This is what they're talking about. A long, open space, corridors on either side, port and starboard.
Hey, Matt. I just want to
If
pause
they've
you
got
there
any
for a second.
closure, it's just wooden doors.
I just want to pause you there for a second, because I do want to show people some things that are usually pretty hard to see, but with the field of view trick that I've been doing here, you can see the shear is actually modeled. And you can see, kind of looking down the corridor, how it bows down towards the center there. I just wanted to pause and show that just while I was looking at that. But you can continue.
No, no problem. I was just saying that this is the point where Titanic needed a watertight bulkhead, because it was here that the water overtook the ship. The ship sank just to the point where it was maybe going to balance out and equalize, but then the water just came up Scotland Road, flowed down the door on the left. That goes into one of the boiler rooms. And as the flooding progressed, it just went into successive compartment. Also, fun fact, there is a laundry service just down the hall that goes down, into a linen area, which also leads into the ship's swimming pool. Yes, we can confirm Titanic's pool is still full of water. Ha, we've heard this joke a million times.
More than a million. I just wanted to point out this grate right here. This is pretty much where Second Officer Lightoller would have gotten stuck on top of this grate, because water basically came filling in through here, and it wasn't completely flooded. And as it was sinking, and so it created this suction, and it caught Lightoller in that suction, and then there was a burst of hot air coming up, and it sent him up to the top of the water.
There's a shadow back there.
Yeah, and you can actually see on the wreck today that fiddly grating is actually blown outward. It's actually bowed outward from an internal pressure wave. So you can actually physically see the evidence.
Matt, random theory here. This right here, this big tank, that was steam for the whistle on the #1 funnel, right?
I believe it is.
If water had just started pouring down here, would there still have been steam in that?
Probably. I would imagine.
Could that have been the burst of hot air?
Maybe.
Is it burst open on the wreck? Do we know?
Maybe, because I know that it wouldn't have come from the boilers, because after the collision, the stokers went through and they sort of emptied out as many of the boilers as they could. And there's a reason for that, a very good reason. You never, ever, ever want to mix hot metal with cold water, because especially with a boiler situation like that, because then you can get a serious problem with an explosion or something like that. So as soon as the ship started flooding, they started taking the coal out of the boilers.
Somebody was just asking where the door that we were looking at goes. Matt, I'll have one of you two, Matt or Josh, take that in just a second, but Jill was asking how everything looks so realistic, and while I'm guessing that was a rhetorical question, the actual genuine answer is Unreal Engine 4, which, when done right, anything that is made well in Unreal Engine, it just always looks phenomenal. Most games
And
that you see today that are
and
for
Kyle
Unreal,
are just that. Matt and Kyle are just that good as well.
they are. I mean, all credit where it's due to Matt and Kyle. They do an incredible job when it comes to modeling and doing all of this. But when it comes down to like actually the technical side of why it looks good, the same kind of work can go into Unity. You can do the same processes, and they just aren't going to look as good. But they are absolute technical wizards at what they do, and Unreal Engine really does just kind of it's the seasoning on top of the entree that makes it all just pop. But yeah, no, this does look absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. With regards to the previous question, where does that door with the shadow go into? That's actually, the shadow is just kind of an Easter egg. That door actually goes into the what's called the vent fan.
The ventilator.
There's like a ventilation room there, probably like a motor and possibly even a high pressure steam tank, which lies at the base of the #1 funnel. I'm looking at the blueprints here. I'm looking at we call them the beverage plans, because Bruce Beverage is the one behind these. And yep, I see the book.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I think somebody may have accidentally left a jeweled copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam down here.
I wanted to point out. First of all, I need to correct myself. It was 6 was not emptied out. It was 5 to 2 that were emptied out. 6, I don't think they had a chance as far as getting that.
Yeah, boiler room 6 was full up because of the water coming in.
But I did want to point out while we're down here.
We
Fred
are in
Barrett,
boiler room 6.
We are in boiler room 6, and I wanted to point out that Fred Barrett said the water came in about 2 feet above the keel plates,
which would have been right about here.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's obviously the reason why we can get to this corner of the room. It came in 2 feet above the stokehold plates. So yeah, that is exactly where the water came bursting in.
Yep.
That is the iceberg damage. That it's right there along that flank.
Josh, do you know which furnace Barrett was standing at?
I don't remember him saying where exactly he was. He might have, but I don't remember him saying that. But I do know he said it was 2 feet above the floor.
And that's right where that cover plate is, isn't it?
Yep.
Just about. Right where the cover plate, right where the plates overlap.
And I do love, when you're up on these catwalks, you really can see the curve of the ship down here and all of the structural workings that hold it all together.
Yeah, I love this demo of Boiler Room 6. It's just so gritty and hazy, and the boilers just look hot. They look red hot to the touch, even though it's not real. It looks so convincing.
I do love, I'm back up on the catwalks, I'm going to come back down here for a second, just so I can point out, I love that, you know how when you're looking at something hot, the air just has that visual distortion to it?
Oh yeah, it has that.
They properly distorted it. It's beautiful. I just want to stick a marshmallow in there.
You could probably even roast it on the catwalks. You wouldn't even need the furnaces for that.
That's fair.
Don't forget about the graham crackers and Hershey's bars.
Oh, absolutely.
Did Hershey's exist in 1912?
S'mores on the Titanic.
Hershey existed in 1912.
Did it?
Yes, it did. I mean, Milton Hershey was supposed to go on Titanic, but he had to cancel.
By the way, I think I found the package that Sarsha Barbican needed.
Yep.
Yep.
You found the package. There it is.
What's up for Vlad?
Oh, I think somebody lost their cufflink, and I was supposed to go find it. Let me go see if I can figure that out.
Man, did Mr. Astor? Did Mr. Straus lose his cufflink? Really?
I think he did. He keeps leaving it on this chair. It's up on D-Deck. I'm just gonna go.
Another one. You'd think on another voyage he would just learn by now, but you know.
Wait. There it is. Okay. I'm gonna go. I was told to take this to the purser, so I'm just gonna go and.
I see. Just pocket it.
Nah, I took it up to him. He's happy now. So all that done though, should we head up to C-Deck?
I wanted to
Or-
say I love that candelabra, and Titanic Honor and Glory will be having a version of that candelabra soon, as at least from my understanding. I saw when they had it at Pigeon Forge, they had a pretty much a prototype of it existing
I gotta
from
ask how many
DDEC.
people I just jump scared in the stream because the person just popped up. I gotta know how many people just about crap themselves there because it still gets me sometimes. Just saying.
Oh, it was a funny. That was a funny touch.
It's
But
great.
yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna help
I can't
you.
wait as soon as Honor and Glory has it available, I'll be looking at purchasing a candelabra because, I mean, it's just a beautiful piece of the ship.
Oh, it really is. The one I was really excited about that they were looking at doing was the lifeboat davits that they showed off in Pigeon Forge. Words cannot describe how much I want one of those.
I have one.
Continue, gentlemen. I'll be right back.
I have one.
You do?
Looking at it, as a matter of fact. Yeah, it's
How did you get?
yeah, they had it available there. But yeah,
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
it's a great piece. Very well done, very detailed.
Does it have a good weight to it? That's my question.
Not really. It's pretty light.
Aw.
It functions. You're able to crank it in and out.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
those-
them
those are cool.
demonstrated on the live stream, and I was really blown away with that. Did they end up going with the metal parts, or did they find a way to print plastic later on? Or do
I
you know?
think it's mostly plastic.
Gotcha. I kind of wish that some of the things that they print, I feel like would be a really good candidate for printing in metal. I think that'd be a really nice touch. So Josh,
Oh, by the way, I wanted to point out while you're at the purser's office,
Yes.
how much I loved that countertop.
oh,
I don't remember
here?
seeing it in any of the photographs, but yes, I love the countertop of the purser's office.
it is beautiful, nice and glossy. Oh, while we're here,
The nice inlaid wood. It
here,
reminds me. It reminds me of some of the pieces that have been recovered from Titanic. They took the different woodwork and sort of inlaid, just like you see with the countertop, and made different gaming boards and stuff from it.
hmm I should note that this list that I'm looking at is if you donated at a particular level during their Kickstarter campaign, you got your name on the return voyage list, and this is a page out of that.
I'm on it. As a matter of fact, I
Are you
made myself a member of the band and booked the band's cabin in second class.
So you wouldn't be on this list, would you? This is cabins B1 through B40.
Right. Yeah. I think I was on D deck.
D-deck?
Whatever the band cabin was, yeah, it was near the second class dining saloon, I think. But yeah, I made myself the pianist of the Titanic's band for the return trip.
You know, I wonder, is there any list like that in this demo on D-deck? I've never seen it if it is a thing, but I haven't ever really looked. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised, because I know there's another list, it's in the a la carte restaurant that has a good number of people on it. It's
The
like
list in the a la
waitlist.
carte restaurant, from what I understand, is some of the passengers, historical passengers who were there on the last night on April 14th, as well as some of the consultants.
Oh, so Eleanor Raluca is asking if we're doing another Kickstarter. I should know, we are not Titanic Honor and Glory. I wish we were.
Yeah,
we're not.
we gotta throw that out there. We are not Tom, and my name's Matt, but I'm not Matt Dwinkler, unfortunately.
But if you want to donate, please go to their website and donate. I'm sure they would really appreciate it.
The link is visible on screen right now. TitanicHG.com/contribute. They were kind enough to post that on the notices board. So
Every little bit helps.
So, for the benefit of new viewers, people who are just logging in and haven't seen this just yet, I am going to repost the Patreon account where people can join in and donate to this project.
it is worth noting that
I have
Patreon,
just put it into the chat.
That Patreon, though, for people who are uninitiated to the stream, if you do join that Patreon at that link, you do actually get something out of it. If you join at the $2 level, you get access to a Discord server where they share behind-the-scenes sneak peeks and some things that aren't usually shared publicly. And I think Matt and Kyle both hang out in the Discord server pretty often, and they'll chat with you almost on a daily basis if you're in there and you have questions. If you join at the next level up, I don't know if they throw in the postcard at that level, but I think they might. And the highest level, you get a 3D printed model mailed to you every month. That is not usually available on their store. It's not always a liner.
You sure about that, Spencer?
The 3D printed model thing? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to fact check because there aren't too many 3D printed models.
No, it's not.
There's a bunch of them.
Not from their store. They're not ones that are from their store. They're ones that are specifically made for the Patreon. Like the one that's.
Okay, I misunderstood.
They're usually small. They've mentioned it's not going to be anything big. They're not usually going to be hand painted because they just don't have the time. But like the one that's going out this month is a replica of. 1 second. I'm going down to it. It's a replica of the gangway door on D-deck, and I think it's supposed to be about 4 or 5 inches tall, but it's very meticulously modeled based off of their in-game representation of the... I'm going to go to the other side, because you can see it better over here. But no, they've been posting some teaser shots of it, and it looks very, very nice. I am not joined at that level, but I would like to. But that's kind of what they mentioned, is that it's usually going to be something that's from somewhere around the ship, not usually something available on the store, and it'll just be mailed out, something small every month. I think that's the $50 level, but you get one 3D printed model every month, as well as a postcard, Discord access, and all sorts of stuff with it. It's a really good deal. You also get some behind-the-scenes stuff, and you get to talk with Matt DeWinkler about his upcoming projects for his Titanic University channel. You get to have some input on the kinds of subjects that he covers. It's, I'd say, if you have the money, and you have the money to spare specifically, it is worth it. I am in the Discord. I did join his Patreon, but only at the $2 level, because we don't have all that much money at the moment, but I did join at the $2 level. So
Elijah asked if the Titanic passengers on the return voyage were reimbursed, and that's a good question. I don't have an answer. I'm assuming that they were, just because it never left. One of my distant cousins is J.C. Penney, and he was reportedly supposed to be on the return voyage. So I thought that was a very interesting connection right there.
So I'm going to start heading aft on C deck, and then we'll do the we'll head up to B deck from C deck in the aft. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey,
we'll head up to.
Can you turn on the?
I am sorry. I just.
Can you turn on the names?
The names? Yes. But no, I
talk
will,
about them.
There we go. Yeah, there's Straus's. We'll chat about them again if we have to. But what
The Straus's were cool people. Look at Titanic VR. I go into detail about who they were and stuff while we explore their sitting room in there.
I could give you we can't really get into too many of the cabins, but since you're on C deck, I could actually tell you what style the cabins were, since I got the ship Magnificent open here.
While we're heading aft, I was just going to mention, we can head up the port corridor and go up to B deck from the forward grand staircase. So I was going to say we go up and do the reception room, the Cafe Parisian, the a la carte restaurant, and then head forward on B deck, and then I guess we can come back down the corridor on B deck to go up to A, because you can't get to A deck. I don't know. What order do you guys want to do that in? Because we could just go up now.
I think we're just kind of free roaming at this point. Just go deck by deck in whatever areas are accessible.
Right. Elijah asks if the Strausses put their servant in a first-class cabin. The answer is yes. Both John Farthing and Ellen Bird both were in first class with them, and unfortunately John Farthing did not survive, along with Ida and Isidore. Ellen, on the other hand, did, and before she boarded, they said it was okay for her to board, and as a matter of fact, she gave her fur coat. Ida gave her fur coat to Ellen, and believing that Ellen needed it more than they did.
Huh. Oh, when we get about halfway down this corridor, though, I'm going to start heading down that way. I'm just going to walk slowly, and we can chat about people. You can see into some of the cabins, but I am going to cut over to the port side because there is a cabin there that I kind of want to talk about. So that's the thing. Which one of these? There was one of these corridors had a linen closet that you can get into. Is it this one? No. Oh, I should turn the names back on. There we go. Which one was C73? Was the one that you're in an adventure at a time, right?
Yeah, that was on, I think, the starboard side. I think.
There we go.
It was over by the guy who I can't pronounce, who was previously on a shipwreck, and Titanic was the first one that made him feel safe.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Titanic
was the first ship I ever felt safe on.
Unfortunately, he didn't survive Titanic. Yeah, I always felt bad for that guy.
Alright, I will head down there in just a second. Oh, hey! Okay, I have a story to tell people just quickly while we look for that cabin, but I'm in one of the passageways that crosses over. But if you see this trash can back here that has cats on it, there is a story there that is not accurate to Titanic. It is in the demo. It's an Easter egg. From what I remember, I think Matt DeWinkler told me this story at one point in one of the Facebook groups. Because I saw it. I sent a screenshot, and I was like, well, what's up with this? And he mentioned that they stayed in a hotel in Southampton, I believe it was, where they had a trash can that looked exactly like that. And someone in the room made the joke that they should just put that in game at some point. So they just did. And there it is. Oh, here we go. This is the guy who survived the sinking of the America.
Yeah, I haven't even tried to pronounce his name because I know I'll botch it. But,
I see a spelling mistake.
Oops.
It's okay. Ramon Artagaveitia? I don't know. Vesha? Artagavesha? Artagavesha? I don't know how to pronounce that. That is decidedly not English.
That's why I didn't even try.
Yeah. Oh, I could actually probably say the name if I saw it long enough.
Okay, well here we'll sit here and stare at it.
Ramon Artagavecchia. Rush?
Sure, we'll go with that one.
One of the three.
That works.
Artagavecchia.
Alright, good job, Matt. C73 should be right.
I get a pass.
Yep. Hey, there we are.
What were you saying, Spence?
It's
we
just missing Smethels.
Yeah, we need Smethels. He'd be up on the grand staircase, though.
Good evening. I am Smethels, your steward. I can actually do his voice pretty good.
You can. You've had since 1996 to practice, so.
Yeah. I have had a long time to practice.
Smethels is everybody's favorite. Hashtag bring back Smethels for honor and glory. Get it trending. We need him.
Very good, sir. If I may recall, everybody hates the Maldemare.
He always had his nose in other people's business, which was useful to you.
Not so much to anyone else.
Still wonder.
Okay, so
about.
I have to go down this side now because Matt, you know where I'm going, right?
I do believe I do.
Charles Stengel, by the way, was one of the people in Boat 1. He was not really... He didn't end up acting that great during the whole ordeal. Oh, the Wideners. By the way, for those of you who are in Philadelphia or near Pennsylvania, the Linewood Hall that the Wideners lived in is still there. It's very dilapidated. and pretty much abandoned. And it looks like the White House if it was abandoned for about 5 decades. But yeah, it's still there, and it's very interesting to look at and visit at least one.
So,
The Widener's collection is thankfully in the Smithsonian. If you guys visit the art museum of the Smithsonian, a lot of their collection is there, donated by Mrs. Widener, later Mrs. Rice.
so this cabin here that I've been
is
staring at the door for a while. This here is C86, which is the second closest thing to a personal Titanic connection that I have. This is the cabin of Walter and Mahala Douglas, who were the executives of Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats is, for those who don't know, a cereal company, and their headquarters, the largest cereal factory in the world, is from a place that I don't speak of much, but lived in for 21 years because I was born there and had to. I currently don't live in Iowa anymore, but it's in Cedar Rapids, Iowa is where it was. I grew up there for 21 years and recently moved to North Carolina. But the home that Walter and Mahala Douglas lived in, it's called Brucemore, and it is still there. And Matt, when you visited me in Cedar Rapids, we went to Brucemore, and you
yes,
confirm
we did.
It is very well maintained, especially given there's really not that much in terms of historic sites in Cedar Rapids, and to have one so well maintained that has a Titanic connection is pretty cool.
Well, it is honestly like the only thing to do in Cedar Rapids.
That's fair, but you judge me. But the other thing that is in Cedar Rapids that was connected to Titanic, as many of you know, there were only about 330-some bodies ever found following the sinking of Titanic.
Spencer. Pause, Spencer.
Yes.
Elena is giving us a shout out saying that some of us they're having mic issues. Volume's really low, volume's really
Right. Elena, would you... I'm Spencer. Matt, say your name.
Hi, I'm Matthew.
Josh?
Hi, I'm Josh.
Which one of us is super loud?
And which one is quiet?
Because I will fix it. I'm just waiting on a reply in chat. I'm going to turn mine down for now. I still haven't seen anything from anyone in chat. Have you guys seen anything? I don't know if mine's...
No, I'm kind of monitoring the chat. But yeah.
Okay, Matt, you keep an eye on chat and let
This
me know.
has a lower mic.
You let me know when somebody replies. I will adjust it accordingly.
She says Matt is fine, Josh is fine. Spencer, your microphone is low.
Low or loud? Is it too loud or is it too quiet?
Oh. Oh. Thank you. Bear with us for 1 second.
She said yours is super quiet, Spencer.
Super quiet. Mine is super quiet. Okay. I've got mine turned up all the way. No, you're good.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the...
Okay. I've turned my mic up all the way, so hopefully that should be a bit better. The other thing I can do to balance it a little bit, I can try and turn down you guys a little bit, but I don't want to do too much of that. Interesting. Okay, so as I was saying, though, with C86 and the Douglases, the other thing that was in Cedar Rapids that was connected to it, there were about 330 people whose bodies were recovered after the disaster. Most of them, well, not most of them, a good number of them were buried at sea, and I believe it was 159, and Josh, Matt, check me if I'm wrong, 159 of them were actually brought back to land, and of those, only 59 were sent back home to their families, with the remainder being buried in Halifax. I don't remember if it was the 159 that were brought back to shore, but I know it was 59 that got sent home to their families, one of which was Walter Douglas, and he is buried in Cedar Rapids, which is the most interesting thing that I was able to find in Cedar Rapids, you can go and visit the Douglas Vault, where both Walter and Mahala are buried along with their maid, Berthy Leroy. All three of them are buried in the same vault, and it's just kind of an interesting place to go visit. It's also worth...
Rose Dawson is also buried there. You're forgetting about the most famous survivor.
In Cedar Rapids? Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, no. Moves Cedar Rapids and she punches out a couple of kids. Now Calvin's dead. From what I hear, Cedar Rapids is dead. Yeah, no, I noticed.
And you know he's not wrong.
Cedar Rapids is dead. It's a.
It is absolutely dead.
No, Cedar Rapids is my family still lives there. I shouldn't bag on it too much, but I wish they would move so that we don't have to go back and visit Cedar Rapids. I will visit them, but I don't want to visit Cedar Rapids. So someday I will go back. Someday probably sooner than I would like. But no, Cedar Rapids is very much... I get flashbacks thinking about that place. Anyway, back to Titanic. So... oh, we didn't go back into... There's the little first-class cabin back here.
Stayed in by Austin Partner. Stayed in by Austin Partner. Don't know much about him. I did wanted to point out on the bed is the damask cover, which was on a lot of the first-class beds at the time. I thought that was a nice little touch.
Is that what that is? I thought that was just a weird texture. But now that you say it's
a
cover...
It does look a little weird, but yeah, it is a damask bed cover.
Huh. Cool. So back this way. We can't get into it.
Or at least I think it is. Maybe it is just a mattress that's uncovered.
I don't know. It's a very shiny texture. It looks weird.
That's very weird.
But no, back this way. This door here would head out onto the second-class promenade, as it says, the ship's surgery. This is a staircase, isn't it, Josh? It goes down a deck to the ship's hospital?
I think so. And then, of course, you have Dr. Laughlin. He actually sailed on a number of White Star Line ships and was familiar with Chief Purser McElroy, Captain Smith, and some of the other crew. And Andrew Latimer, the chief steward. They served together on several other ships prior to the Titanic, and so they were pretty well acquainted with each other.
Oh.
And of course, you also have Luigi Gatti down that hallway nearby, who ran the a la carte restaurant. He had a contract with the White Star Line, and the German ships had done this first, where they had people basically run restaurants on their ships, and the White Star Line followed suit.
So I want to answer a question here quick, because it's one that actually kind of has an interesting answer, and it also lets us go down this B-deck corridor that I'm going down with an actual purpose. Shock Factor 22 was asking, he said, I know James Cameron's Titanic was Romeo and Juliet on a ship, but did they ever designate a room for Rose? I was genuinely curious. And the short answer is yes, but no. And the long answer is yes, they did. It was B-52 and B-54 and B-56, which in reality was one of the millionaire suites that contained a private promenade, which is not visible in the demo, but you can see a little bit of the other one on the opposite side of the ship through a crack in a door, which is right there. But the room that they modeled Rose's cabin after was one that we just passed on C deck a little bit ago. They actually modeled a good amount of Rose's cabin after the Straus suite, which would have been right here.
It was an amalgamation. The sitting room, the sitting room is based off the Straus suite, and then the Dutch style, which is Rose's room, I think was a different cabin. And then you had the Empire, I think the Empire style, which is Gal's room, and that also, I believe, was a different room. It was sort of an amalgamation of the best looking room.
Yes, and it's worth noting, in reality, it's believed that it was Mr. Ismay who actually stayed in that room. And, oh, we were talking about this on the last stream. The one on the port side was, not the Ryersons. It
Yeah,
was Cardezas, the Cardezas.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, and yeah, Bruce is sick, and that was originally, I think, originally meant for J.P. Morgan, but of course, because Morgan didn't make it, Ismay kind of gave himself an upgrade. But
Who,
yeah,
I
the
mean, wouldn't you?
absolutely incorrect, absolutely 100% incorrect, the style of the cabin in every respect with relation to what we see in the movie Titanic, because like they were just saying, the cabin in the movie Titanic was placed where J. Bruce Ismay was. However, the fireplace and the sitting room were styled like, Isidore and Ida Straus's cabin, but then the bedroom and the accommodations were styled in 2 or 3 different styles. So it was like I always kind of call the movie Titanic, I call the movie cabin the Franken cabin, because you got 3 or 4 different located space.
I wanted to, since we were at Jeebers May, I thought it might be a good idea to talk about him, because he gets a bad rap in pretty much every film.
He does.
And I'd like to point out, first of all, the first thing you need to realize about Ismay is, first of all, he was an introvert. He inherited the company from his father. His father was Thomas Henry Ismay, who basically made the White Star Line what it was. And he was not a very kind father to Joseph Bruce. And so, but Ismay was an introvert, and when he retired, people said he was so ashamed of surviving and stuff that he basically was shunned by society, and that he refused to see anyone and stuff. No, he just liked being alone. He was a big introvert, and he was also very kind. He served on some charitable boards. He donated money when he could and stuff. He wasn't a cruel, heartless person, and even in surviving, he did not take the place of another person, of a woman or child. It was already being lowered. There was a seat right there. It's also interesting to note that William Carter got in around the same time, and Carter himself said that they were asked to get in by an officer, and that part's up for debate. But yeah, I think they were pretty much asked to get into the lifeboat and to help row. But unfortunately, Ismay was given a bad rap, and then of course the Nazi film came out, which portrayed Ismay as the mustache twirling villain who made things more difficult and made things worse, and then was a coward and survived. And pretty much every film after that sort of followed suit and didn't really treat him that well. And now the public perception is that he was that way, when in fact he really wasn't.
Well, and I feel it's also worth a note. Ismay at the time had some things to take into consideration. For one, even if he didn't get in, there was nothing that was going to be gained by him going down with the ship. And from a strictly business perspective, if you are the managing director of a company who is on board one of your most expensive assets as it's going down and about to claim the lives of 1,500 people, 1,496 to be specific, because rounding, it's a thing, you kind of have this sense that there's going to be an inquiry into what happened. And as the managing director of the White Star Line, who was heavily involved with its construction and knows the ship almost better than anyone, with, obviously the exception of Thomas Andrews, who did not survive, you got to realize that you are an asset to understanding what happened to this ship and that you are going to be needed to testify. So if he sees a boat going down and he's asked by an officer to get into it, or sees that he's not going to take anybody's place by getting into it, realizing that he is an asset, he by all means probably did contribute pretty heavily at the inquiries in actually helping. And he probably realized that getting into that, and I can't say that for sure because no one really knows what was in his mind, but that is an angle that doesn't really get talked about much, and I feel it's kind of underappreciated. The other thing to note is that when that boat was being lowered, there wasn't really anybody else around. So it wasn't like he took a guess that nobody else was going to get in. It's just most of the passengers that were going towards lifeboats had moved aft at that point. They weren't right next to that boat at the time. So being on a mostly empty deck, watching an empty lifeboat being lowered, well, not empty, but a not very full lifeboat being lowered after some boats have been lowered with only 12 people in them, and knowing that no one else is going to take that place, he had no reason to stay on board other than the principle of the thing, which
Also,
when it
and
comes to
also
human
not
life isn't
seeing,
worth much.
and also not seeing that many men on board to row the boat. And I mean, it's not like he just sat there. He actually contributed throughout the night and rowed until they got to the Carpathia.
I get what a lot of folks are saying with regards to Ismay and just the Titanic in general. You know, thank God we would never have to be put in that position to ask ourselves the question, what would we do in that place? I don't feel, so, hear me out for just a second. I do feel to a certain extent that Ismay was a little cowardly, but not nearly the coward that he's portrayed. I'd like to think of Ismay as more of an opportunist. He knew the score. He knew the score. He knew the ship was going down. And
There was nothing really
we don't know what was
cowardly.
going on in his head.
I mean,
There was nothing really cowardly in what he did.
I would
Yeah,
say...
he saw an empty seat and he took it.
Helping people to get into the boats. He was putting the people above their lives above his own. He was putting everyone's safety first and trying to get the boats lowered as fast as possible.
And I should also note, it is very easy to sit back in a comfortable armchair in the year 2020, so far removed from this tragedy and having never been in that situation yourself, and sit there and call someone who knows their life is on the line a coward for trying to save themselves. But until you have been in a situation where you know damn well that this ship is going to go down and people are going to die, and you have been able to stand there with a stiff upper lip, see that opportunity, not take it, and not be scared, to call him a coward just kind of feels presumptive, to say the least. People are going to be scared in a situation like that. It doesn't matter who you are.
I would not jump on. Like I said, I kind of think of him as more of an opportunist. He saw an opportunity. There was no reason for him not to take that opportunity, and he took it. Whether it was cowardly or not, I can't hold his decision to take an obviously empty seat when the boat was being lowered and no one else was getting in. That's the key. I don't know if I would even
call that opportunism. I think it was simply he saw a need. He was filling a need, which was that boat needed more people to row.
Yeah,
and the officer comes up and asks him to get in and help row the boat, and he filled that need. He hit that entire night. He pretty much spent it filling the need, and that was to get people off into the boats and into safety. And with his job pretty much done, they were almost to the end, and most of the boats were gone. There was hardly anyone around him. That's when he got in and continued helping.
Indeed.
One of my favorite rooms on the ship.
This is a beautiful room.
This is where they had a dinner party on April 14th, hosted by the Wideners in honor of Captain Smith. And
Mr. Cusiak has asked a question. I just noticed he said, do you think Lightoller regretted not letting men on later in life? And Jill Carlier responded that Lightoller said he's the kind of man who doesn't second guess his decisions and sticks with him. Okay.
I mean,
I wanted to address that question by quoting the intro to Lightoller's book. I mean, he wrote a short story called Titanic by Commander Lightoller. The very first thing
Josh,
it says...
you are on the list, by the way. You're right here.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
The very first thing it says on the book, it says this: dedicated to my, in big letters, dedicated to my persistent wife who made me do it. It's literally spelled like that. It says my persistent wife who made me do it. Lightoller's a very stubborn and by the book individual. He's a company man. I feel like there wasn't really much room for regret, especially by Lightoller's own testimony. In his own words, in his own book, he never did dwell. In his own writings, he said he never did dwell on the screams and the cries of the ship after it sank. You know, he just effectively shut them out. He strikes me as the type of individual who was very by the book. Kind of sounds like a bit of a wise ass. Excuse my language, but he sounds like he was definitely a sarcastic by the book individual.
If you listen to recordings of Lightoller being interviewed later in his life, he does. I'm thinking particularly the BBC interviews. You can look these up on YouTube. He has this sort of matter-of-factness about him, even just as he's talking about it, where you can tell that he's not regretful of anything that he did, but he recognizes kind of...
He describes the night of the disaster with the same monotone that he would order breakfast at a restaurant. He's talking it at a very, very even pace.
If you read the story, basically, he portrayed himself as a hero. He thought that he did everything he could that night, and I don't think he really regretted it. But I wanted to point out in the a la carte restaurant, a personal moment for me was seeing a sconce from that room on the 100th anniversary. I was there at a exhibit on the 100th anniversary, and they had the D-deck door there, and the William Murdoch personal effects there. I think that was the first time they were on display, and there was a sconce, and I looked at my watch, and it was exactly 100 years after they had eaten most of them had eaten their last meals right under that, and it was just a very moving experience for me to be standing there in front of those objects and to think about what happened that night.
Indeed. By the way, Drill Carlier earlier had a question about bunk beds in Thomas Andrews' stateroom and wondering if that was correct, and that is correct. This is Thomas Andrews' stateroom here, as you can tell.
Yeah, I made the comment that Thomas Andrews' cabin was of an upper berth style cabin, so there was a bunk bed, and I think there was also a chase lounge as well. If memory serves me correctly. The feed is catching up to me.
The chase
lounge?
No,
it's not a lounge. It's a third bed. There's 3 beds.
Oh yeah, no, it is 3 beds. It's
you've got 2 beds and an upper berth.
And then I do like they have these shelves. They actually kind of look like nice shelves that even in a modern home could actually be functional. I might try and build a replica of one of these shelves at some point just to like keep stuff in, because everybody needs more storage space, right? Why not make it Titanic?
I feel like Andrews gave himself the room with the best views, because he was able to sort of. I wonder if he was able to open up a panel in that frosted glass.
Knowing him, probably.
Outside his window was the promenade deck, and then he comes out of the room, and there's the aft grand staircase. I do feel like he gave himself the best room with the best view.
I mean, why wouldn't he? You know,
right?
He knows about it. He designed the ship, man. He earned it.
And across from him was Father Brown, and I'm surprised that Father Brown didn't take a photo from that view. with his camera.
That is surprising. Like, especially given how easy that would have been to just, one night just kind of step out and just go...
For a lot of photo opportunities. Maybe he ran out of film. I don't know how much film he had in that camera of his, or how many camera, rolls, or... I don't. We need somebody... Josh, do you know anything about the camera? You obviously do know about the camera he would have been using. Could you tell us a little bit about the camera and the film?
It's right there.
It was a standard cheap Kodak Brownie that would have been used to take photos quickly. It wasn't a big old camera. He went around and took some candid snapshots, and he was a master at candid snapshots. If you go to the website, I think it's called sjbrown.com or something like that, or fatherbrown.com. You'll be able to see some photographs he took around Ireland and around World War One, which he actually was recognized officially for. And he was amazing at capturing everyday life as it happened and recording historical events as he witnessed them.
Yeah, he had some pretty incredible photos from World War One as well. Also, I really wish we could get in here in this demo. It looks almost complete. And I know there's some stuff kind of around this corner that you can't see in this shot that aren't complete, but that smoking room really is beautiful.
Yeah, the smoking room is without doubt my favorite room on the entire ship.
And if we're honest, I love the red and blue more than the green and blue. The green and blue tiles were used on the Olympic. Red and blue were used on the green and blue. Were used on the Olympic. Red and blue were used on Titanic, and I like the red and blue much better than the green and blue.
I have to agree with you there. I do like that quite a bit. It's a very nice color scheme, and I think the green and blue does not blend as well with the paneling, especially.
I can kind of see what they were going for with the green tiling, especially because they were trying to match the furniture of the room, because the furniture is very like that old English poker room. Essentially what it was a men's lounge, so you had deep emerald green upholstered leather furniture with like walnut handles and accents. But one thing that I love, my kind of Titanic moment, I've had a couple through the years, but one of my favorite Titanic moments in recent times, when I went to the Ronald Reagan Library, they had a spare panel from the first class smoking room, and that panel is right on the inside doorway. You can actually see it through the glass of the doorway into the smoking room. It's right on the left of the doorway. And that panel's it's like a 6-foot panel, but it's this stunningly gorgeous wood with mother of pearl inlay. The craftsmanship is phenomenal.
When you capture in the right lighting, it's just very pretty.
Oh yeah, it sparkles. It sparkles like a jewel.
Hey Matt.
It is actually in the Craig's Open collection.
Well, I do want to say one thing though. It makes me curious about how they would have upkept that room, because from personal experience, having worked in a jewelry store for so many years, if you're a smoker, mother of pearl does not react kindly to nicotine and smoke and tobacco. It doesn't react well with these substances. So I wonder, in the smoking lounge, they would have had to have kept it and give it some kind of treatment almost daily to make sure it doesn't tarnish and lose its luster.
Hey, Matt.
I also sorry, Spencer, go ahead.
I was to say, Matt, you mentioned that as being like your favorite Titanic moment, but I feel like there's one that you should probably mention to the stream, because it's my favorite of your Titanic moments anyway.
Oh, you mean the wheel?
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
So,
it's pretty hard to beat.
Okay, so I'll share. Now this is definitely the number one. It is definitely the number one Titanic moment that will likely never be beat, at least for me. It was anniversary.
Oh, you're breaking up, Matt.
It was the 100th anniversary of the Titanic sinking, and I was at the Luxor Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. They had, now most people are unaware because they see the telemotor, the gear on the Titanic's bridge on the wreck. They automatically assume the wheel was attached to that device. Not so. The Titanic's wheel was mounted to a device attached to the telemotor. And what had happened was, I went to the exhibit. I had my pocket watch. It's about 100-year-old, an antique pocket watch. It was set to ship time. I had it accurately set to the time, to the second. So I was counting down the minutes and the seconds until Titanic hit the iceberg. When I got into the exhibit, they had the remains of the wheel on display. There were people in the exhibit, but there was nobody giving tours. There was no tour guide. This is that, and that's this, and this is, which really kind of irritated me. So I whipped out my pocket watch, and I realized I had Titanic's wheel all to myself for literally the entire 37 seconds of the collision. Nobody was around me. I had the room to myself. The first person that showed up was 5 minutes later, and you had already missed literally 100 years to the second. I stood where Quartermaster Hitchens was when he swung the wheel trying to avoid the iceberg. And that was probably, I can't even describe to you what was going on in my head when I stood there and I looked at my watch and I looked at the wheel. And then I looked around behind me. They at least had the foresight, or maybe it was just a sheer coincidence. They were showing the Discovery Channel animation of the ship striking the iceberg. I gotta tell you, the room got icy cold, and it wasn't the ice. It wasn't the ice in the room that gave me that chill. It was a freaky, really memorable experience.
I just wanted to mention Justin Litke just popped into the chat, and for people who were watching earlier when I mentioned the book about Titanic's musicians and that had been gifted to me by a friend, that was the friend who gifted it to me, and thank you, Justin. I was telling them about that book and recommending it to them earlier. Anyway, you were saying, Matt?
No, that was just, I was just kind of reminiscing. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but that is my number one Titanic moment. I got Titanic's wheel 100 years to the moment. I got all 37, 38, how many seconds? I stood in front of that wheel for a couple of minutes. I had Titanic's wheel completely to myself 100 years to the time. So that's me. That's my moment, and I'm going to take that to the grave with me. But I'm looking at the chat, and I went off on a tangent, and the chat has blown up with questions.
So before we get on to questions here, I did have a thing I was going to mention. We have explored this demo in its entirety. So for the sake of not repeating ourselves, but not having to end the stream early because we've finished the demo and we have a lot of questions, I was considering switching over to a different thing for a while. It's not going to be as high quality visually, but I do have a much more extensively modeled version of Titanic for Vehicle Sim, which you can explore a good majority of its interior, and it's far more extensively modeled. Not quite as visually appealing because it's running in DirectX or some engine like that, but we can continue wandering more areas of the ship in just less high visual fidelity, if people would be all right with that.
We could also go down the corridors, and we could also be talking about the different passengers, because there's a lot of passengers there in the corridors where their cabins were.
Yeah, no, I'm totally down to do that. I was just thinking switching over to something that we can move around a little bit more, so we get a little bit more variation. Because we can talk about passengers all day, but there's only so long we can stare at a wall.
Oh yeah. Well, thankfully it is the Titanic had a lot of pretty walls.
It does.
But yeah.
We have somebody
while we were
saying to do it.
I thought one kind of cool thing while we were, I forgot to mention in the smoke room, was there was actually a small corridor, and it was in between the funnel casing of the fourth funnel and the wall around the stained glass windows. And it was a very tiny, very narrow corridor, but that's where you were able to change the light bulbs from behind the stained glass windows. And I always thought that area was very interesting, and I can imagine like you could sneak into that corridor, sort of overhear passengers talking while they don't realize you're there.
I have to interject here on that, Josh. Have you seen Queen? On the Queen Mary, long time ago, somebody left a service panel open on the Queen Mary Hotel. I don't know who it was on the hotel staff, but somebody left a service panel off. We actually were able to get inside the original space behind the bulkhead where you change the light bulbs on the Queen Mary.
Oh yeah.
I gotta tell you, that is an incredibly claustrophobic space. I have no idea what that looked like on Titanic, but holy crap. Incredibly tight.
So,
very small.
I've just noticed that there's quite a few people that are mentioning they're intrigued in this other thing, and they're wanting to see some second-class spaces as well, which are modeled in that. So, if it's all right with you guys, I'll switch over just for a little while, just so we have some new visuals to entertain our brains. What I'll probably do is I'll get it running in the background here. Just so you guys are aware, on stream, this is going to go black for a while I switch this. You'll still hear our voices, and we'll still be chatting. We can do a bit of a Q&A kind of thing while I switch over. It's just going to take a minute to get it up. So,
I guess we can answer some questions. I'm going through, and I'm noticing Elena commented that looks like she and Jill have got us broadcasting on the TV, so they're getting full HD. They're getting a theater experience out of this stream.
Hope you brought some popcorn.
Oh yeah,
right.
I'm sure it's a wonderful experience to see that way.
Yeah. Laura's interested in a more extensive demo.
That's what I'm switching to at the moment. It's not an honor.
I'm going to address that. Honoring Glory is going to release more, sometime soon. But right now they're currently in deliberations with folks to get funding for the game as a whole. So they're not really doing any more demos. But we mentioned earlier in the stream, there is going to be a demo about the Britannic, Titanic's sister, and there's going to be 2 modes of gameplay, from what I've heard. You're going to have original White Star livery, but then it's going to be hospital ship, and it's going to be kind of a sinking demo to go through the ship and experience the sinking. So I'm excited for that, but there is stuff on the horizon. And let's see, I'm looking. Shock Factors also pointing out the Carpathia is just a few minutes from arriving in New York. Which, yes, that is correct. It would be arriving in New York any moment now, actually.
It was dark and rainy, and
supposed to have arrived in.
If not thousands of people were there waiting for her to come in, and some of them were there hoping to see their loved ones, and ended up going away realizing that their loved ones didn't make it. And some of them had very joyful reunions, realizing that their loved ones did make it. The newspapers sometimes didn't report correctly on survivals and deaths, like with the Goldenbergs. It was reported that Samuel Goldenberg had died and Mrs. Goldenberg had survived, when in fact both had survived. And yeah, there was a lot of miscommunication that was cleared up when the Carpathia got to New York.
Hey Josh, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, you blanked out.
See.
Just as this other thing loaded, so I wasn't sure if I lost you, but no, we're good.
Also, there's a couple.
Just FYI.
Huh?
There's a couple second class, and I know we addressed. Yeah, Spencer's going to take us through the second class areas on the vehicle simulator model, which he's going to be streaming. Incidentally, I do believe that this is a Kyle Hudak model. Am I right? Am I wrong, Spence?
No, this is actually a new one. That. One second.
I was going to say we should make sure that we differentiate the two for people who watch the replay. That this is not Honor and Glory. This, and we probably shouldn't linger here too.
This isn't. No, this is not an Honor and Glory.
Because unless folks are paying attention, they're going to get confused.
And this is not an Honor and Glory thing. And we'll reiterate a few times here because I do want to make sure that we get that right. This is a model built by a guy named Alex Bow. He's from Russia, I believe, and he developed this model for a sim called Vehicle Simulation Framework. Maritime sim thing, and it should be coming up on stream in just a second.
Spencer, you got very low.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my microphone out of the way there for a second. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that was my fault.
That hurt.
Sorry. No, so what this is a model developed by a guy by the name of Alex Bow for a game called Vehicle Simulator, I believe is the actual name of it. I refer to it as VSF because the official designation from the site is Vehicle Simulation Framework, or VSF. But this was developed specifically for that. I'm going to turn some stuff... I'm going to change some settings here quick. I also want to make sure our voices still sound good. So... Okay, there might be a little echo here for a second. I'm just making sure our voices still sound good. Matt, you want to say something?
Something.
All right. We've never switched games live on a stream before, so... here, 1 second.
Okay, so
okay,
yeah,
we're in. We sound good.
Not quite as good looking as Honor and Glory, but at least with this one, you can literally roam around the entire ship.
Yes, and it is very extensively modeled. So here we go. We can pick up where we left off. All right. And I'm going to turn off our. I'm going to mute our stream on my phone so I don't keep having that echo happen there. All right. So questions and answers. Let's see.
They're asking about Carpathia. Just to clarify, the Carpathia dropped off the boats, the lifeboats from Titanic at Pier 59, which is the White Star Line dock, which I'm sure looked pretty small compared to what the Titanic was going to look like, but it looked pretty pitiful. But yeah, the Carpathia dropped off the White Star Line boats at the White Star Line Pier, and then went to Pier 54, which is Cunard's pier, and dropped off the Titanic, survived. Also where the Lusitania later left on her final voyage. And yeah, that's where they disembarked, and there were thousands of people waiting to greet them, whether it was press or loved ones, or just curious onlookers, or the Senator Smith with his subpoenas.
I've just changed it to sunset, so we get a bit more of a sunsetty vibe out of it.
Steph is asking for us to lower the game sound, lower the game's audio so that they can hear us better.
Yes, of course. 1 second.
I see.
Here we go. That should be better. There it is. All right, that should be better. And I can also go into the game's sound settings and just I can lower a few more things here.
Okay.
Okay, that should be better.
No problem, Steph. Thanks for letting us know. Because when making the transition, the audio doesn't always transition with us, if you know what I mean.
No, it does not always transition. It's kind of a pain, but you get used to it.
It's a beautiful shot. I'm not gonna lie, that is absolutely beautiful. Especially sunset.
Yeah, part of why I switched over this is because the interior, while it doesn't look as nice, like in terms of its lighting and just the high fidelity visuals of Honor and Glory, it is much more extensively modeled. Also, while the NPCs don't move, and they are definitely not all that high fidelity, they are there. So that's a thing. But it is nice to just be able to kind of walk around as it's sailing and just kind of get a sense of what that kind of felt like, to an extent.
Yeah. Jill's asking for a very appropriate moment of silence when the Carpathia arrives.
Of course.
I don't see why not. We could even have services on the fantail.
Yes, we could. I will start. It's what, 20 minutes until it arrives? 15, something like that. Do we have an actual time that we know?
I think it was either 8:30 or 9:30 when she got there.
Well, if it was 9:30 Eastern in modern day, then that will be in 17 minutes.
You also have to account for daylight savings. It probably already passed us, but we can stop at 9:30 and
Yeah,
9:30 Eastern, I should say, in Remembrance.
We'll do that. We're in the reading and writing room at the moment.
My favorite room on the ship, even though it was mostly for women. Someone asked before, I think it was Elena, whether the first class smoke room was only for men, and the answer is yes. And the reason for that is because during that time it was customary for men and women to sort of go their own separate ways after dinner, and the men would congregate one place, the women would go in another place, and the men went into the first class smoke room generally, and the women typically were supposed to go in the reading and writing room, but I guess they found another place to congregate because the reading and writing room wasn't as popular as they thought it would be. But to be honest, it's my favorite room. Just the amount of natural light it allows in, and the beautiful paneling and furniture and stuff. I just love this room.
I also love the lounge. The first class lounge is one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, I do too. Based on the Louis XVI, I think, style. And actually, there's a room in this same style with the Widener collection in the Smithsonian. I thought it was very interesting because I walked in that room. I was like, this looks like the lounge. And then I realized it was the Rice/Widener collection. I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
I also love, they had a reasonably extensive collection of books on board, which it is modeled here. I mean, obviously not as visually appealing as it would be in Honor and Glory, but the shelf is here. And you can see a good number of books sitting on there. I can't read any titles. It's a little bit blurry.
It would be kind of funny if Utility was on board. I doubt it. It really wasn't that popular until after the Titanic sinking, but it would be funny. And I actually have a book that was on a White Star Line ship. I don't know which one, and it's very well bound. It was clearly made for common use. And someone else, I think it was Jock Factor, asked, maybe because I'm bored, what did they do in their cabins? To be honest, reading books was one of the main things. Talking with each other, with other people was another, and playing cards. They were able to entertain themselves a lot better than people do today, which is mostly through the internet and video games.
I feel attacked.
But yeah, the books was their main way of entertaining themselves.
We did have somebody earlier who was asking to see the Veranda Cafe and Palm Court, which I'm in the smoking room at the moment, but while the Veranda Cafe and Palm Court are not modeled in Demo 3, they are in fact modeled here. So here's that.
And I also loved that Palm Court. It was just beautiful. It's another room that allowed wonderful natural light in, and the windows are just incredible.
They really are. And I mean, while obviously visually this isn't quite the best that you could get, I'm turning off the cabin lights at the moment just to let natural light in from it, and I'm also going to make it a little bit earlier in the day. There we go. I just love with games like with like this. You can just kind of free cam around, and you can get any perspective that you want. And I love kind of the perspective of sitting in one of these chairs and just enjoying an afternoon, being able to look outside. You can see out off the fantail there. You can see the docking bridge. You get deck benches. You get a nice view off to the port side of the ship, out onto the promenade, and it's just a nice space overall.
Yeah. You could relax with people, and you could open the doors to allow fresh air if the weather permitted, and yeah, it was a nice open air room where you had the cover of the room. You had the beauty of it as well as the fresh air. Yeah, it was just a really nice space.
So,
and it's interesting to note that this is this type of room, the Cafe Parisian and the Veranda Cafe, were sort of copied. The Parisian Cafe was later added to Olympic. A lot of people don't realize that Titanic was the first one to have the Cafe Parisian, and they noted that it was very popular, so they included it in the Olympic with a later refit. And then Cunard noticed that they were popular, and they basically stole the idea for the Cafe Parisian and added it to the Aquitania. But the Veranda Cafe was, and the flip side was sort of borrowed from other lines and other ships. The Titanic and Olympic weren't the first to have this type of room on board.
Huh.
There was a lot of borrowing between the different shipping lines. Whatever looked good for one probably ended up on the other.
I mean, all in the spirit of friendly competition, I suppose, but you see a lot of that these days. Like, if there's an innovation in an industry and it works, generally you just kind of see people copy it.
Same thing with music. Mozart invented alternating fifths, and then all of a sudden you have Beethoven and Haydn using it, and next thing you know, all kinds of other musicians are writing, and composers are writing music with it. So it's just, if it's a good idea, why let it just go to waste with one person or one company?
Exactly. Jill is saying she loves the weather in this game. I do too, although it can be particularly nasty, which, I mean, I'm not going to do it right now because it's, we're trying to have a nice relaxing thing going on. But you can, where is it? There's an option to turn on real world weather, which, if you don't know what the weather's like in a certain spot at a certain time, it can very quickly end a voyage by just turning that on in mid-ocean. Something I should note about this, for people who don't know what this game is, and what this model is, this is by a third-party developer who creates payware add-ons for Vehicle Simulator and Virtual Sailor, which are developed by Ilan Papini. But, there we go. This is an open-world game, and by open world, I mean open world. It's the Earth, and it supports not just maritime simulation, but it supports aviation. To some extent, it supports land-based vehicles. But at some point today, or while we're streaming, I might take people over to Southampton, because the guy who designed Titanic that we're on right now, this particular model, also did a 1912 version of Southampton and of Cherbourg, which is here. And he also did a 1912 version of Queenstown, which is there, and of Belfast. He also didn't stop there. He has a whole bunch of add-ons that he has designed. I have a good majority of them. Carpathia, for example. There's Lusitania as it was in 1907, as it was in 1908, 1913, 1915, Olympic 1911, 1913, and 1930, and at one point he did add in the troop ship variants of that. I have a lot of ships for this. There's the HMT Olympic there, as it is in its, I believe, 1917 scheme, although he's made a spelling error on the thumbnail there. There is a hospital ship variant of Britannic. All of these, by the way, I should note, do have full interiors. There is the Royal Mail steamer version of Britannic RMS. There are the tenders, the America and the Ireland, as well as the Nomadic in its 1911 configuration, its 1919 configuration, the Normandie in its 1935 and 1937 configurations, the Traffic in 1911 and 1919, also the weird Ingenieur Minard version of the Nomadic from 1934 is a thing, and a harbor tug that is 1912 era, but I don't remember exactly where it's from. I think it was from Liverpool. It's the Destiny and the Karma. But those are all of his add-ons from this particular era. He does also have the research vessel Keldysh and the... Oh, where are they? I've got.
Does he have Does he have the Normandy?
He does have the Normandy, and I actually have it in here as well, which I can show off here in a little bit. Where did they go? Oh, wait, I have it set to boats only. I need subs as well. Yeah, but he also has Mir 1 in both 1997 and 2008 configurations, as well as Mir 2. And
I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but the Normandy was the most beautiful ship ever built. I don't care what anyone else says.
Well, if you'd like, I can spawn it in here in a little bit. It does actually have a good amount of its interiors. We can take a look at it.
I mean, I think we can save that for another day. This is a Titanic stream, after all.
That is
We've already
fair.
gone away. We've already gone away from.
That's fair. That's fair. We'll do that another day. But on a final note with these add-ons, he has the wrecked versions of Britannic and Titanic, both in their kind of a reimagined version of what they looked like day after they sank kind of thing, and then as they appeared in the year that they were discovered. Also with full interiors. So that's just a side note for a lot of people. Wow, I've kind of zoned in for a while to show all that off, but let's see. There are.
I was gonna say the details are cool, but you're obstructing that beautiful view.
Oh, of the ocean.
Yes.
Oh, here we'll wait, turn around. Not gonna run into tuxedo, dude. Let's head up the oh, there we go. The officer's staircase. We'll get ourselves.
I say, why don't we head down and join the fun?
Down on the well deck? Or are you gonna make me do the thing?
Forecastle deck.
Oh, okay. You're gonna make me do the thing.
Oh boy.
Well, here
It
we
is
go.
sunset.
It is sunset. We are sailing
Yeah.
in mid-ocean.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. It was gonna happen. The only time
Well,
I'm ever gonna do this live on the internet.
I can hear your eyes rolling.
No.
Yeah,
Right.
my eyes are rolling, and I'm
hear them
considering
roll.
ducking into B deck to avoid this, but I'm not gonna. All right, here we go. Everybody in the stream wants it. They're all getting way too excited about this, and I know it. So we're gonna do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just remember, we still got 6 minutes to get to the fantail.
Just kidding. I'm the king of the world. Eh. I just made it noon, just for fun. Just for funsies. Okay. And because I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that. Here we go. I'll go a little bit later. There we go. Okay. Now we've got a nice sunset with. There we go. Everybody's happy now.
I'm the king of the world.
I can see the Statue of Liberty already. Very small, of course.
As
Okay,
bad as that accent
now we're
was, that
flying.
sounds correct for Britio.
Now we're flying, guys. We're flying.
Oh my. Oh God, Elijah, please don't start.
Oh no. Okay. Yep. We're out.
Stop.
Okay, and because we've hopped aboard the meme train here, 1 second. God, where do I have to? Which door is it? Is it this one? Yes, it's this one. No, I am in.
No, I'm sorry, and I will not sing the song, and I will not say any more than that Fabrizio impression that I did, as lame as it was. That's it. Nope.
I mean, it could be worse. When I was on the
that one
bow of the Nomadic, I just had to do it, especially with everyone and their mother recreating Jack and Rose on the bow. There was a line to do it.
Oh my god.
It was
That's horrible.
yeah.
No.
It was kind of
No.
bad. I was like, you guys do
Look,
realize the
look.
nomadic, right?
In my defense, I was classy. I didn't do the King of the World on the Nomadic just because it would have lacked the effect. I
did.
actually
Is that
I
the
did
only
the King
reason,
of the
Matt?
World. I did
And
the
the
King
guy
of
I
the
was
World on the
with
Titanic slipway.
almost threw me overboard as a result.
That's okay. You got what you deserved. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. I am trying to find my way down to the cargo hold just so I can, shamelessly encourage the movie fans one more time, because there is an Easter egg down in the cargo hold. You know what it is. All I'm gonna say is that they put a lot of detail into it. Oh, I forgot that when you go underwater in this game, it kind of starts rendering everything real dark. I'm gonna just go ahead and turn on the lights.
Are we?
No, I'm not lost. I know where I'm at. I'm just not. There we go. I was in the wrong hold. Oh wait, he
Typical
fixed it.
man, not willing to admit when he's lost.
I am not lost. I am standing right next to the car, but it's not actually the car. It's the crate. They fixed it. I guess they decided to go.
They fixed it.
Yeah, no, they originally had it as being the car, but now it's the crate that the car was in. Unless, nope. Okay, that's correct. There we go. They actually made it historically accurate. I am proud of them. Okay, fine. If I have to engage the movie fans one more time, there is one more place that I know for a fact that they haven't changed it. So I'm going to go up another deck. Or not another deck. I'm going to go up to... B deck. B deck is the one that I'm going to go to. Get the proper lighting on. Oh, there we go. We're going to run on up this way. We're going to go way faster than a person can go because I could try and keep human speed going, but honestly, we would take forever to get where we're going. And there's our reception room.
3 minutes.
Spence.
Oh, are we needing our moment of silence?
You have 2 minutes to reach the fantail.
Well, I'll take a little shortcut then. Oh man, okay, so for people who are not aware of how the walking system works in this game, you have to just kind of point your camera in the right direction and use the scroll wheel to move forward or backward. And that was hard on my finger, not gonna lie. Okay, I'm on the fantail. Should I get on the docking bridge? I'm gonna get on the docking bridge. Shall I stop the engines?
Yeah, stop the engines.
There we go. The engines have been stopped. Is the time of day correct for what we want to do at the moment, or should I make it nighttime?
This is fine. The twilight's a nice effect.
Okay. How many minutes? 1 minute?
About 1 minute.
Uno.
All right. Then should we be looking aft, or should we be looking forward?
Either or.
We'll look towards the sunset, towards the shore never reached.
Very appropriate and profound. Very nicely done.
Of the 2,208 people that started out on Titanic, 712 made it to New York. 1,496 never made their destination. They never saw land after leaving Queenstown, Ireland. It's 9:30 now, so we're gonna have a moment of silence.
Ladies and gentlemen, hats off if you're wearing them. Let's give a moment of silence. For the conclusion of our minute, there is a Titanic memorial card here. I will read from it. It was published shortly after the disaster, so it's circa 1912, and seems most appropriate, with everyone's permission.
Go for it.
Tenderly bow we our heads in prayer, in reverent thought for the dead, trusting in God we feel they were, as they sank to their watery bed. Nearer, my God, to thee, floated the strain, nearer, my God, to thee. In thine own keeping they now remain, captain of souls with thee. To help the widow and fatherless in this their time of need, turn your thoughts now and a postcard buy, and add to the fund I plead. Never mind if but one, in the Lord's name given, counts as one to him in heaven. Incidentally, the first letter of that poem, each first letter spells out the name Titanic.
Very nice. I have also
Not
sounded
much.
the
Little.
whistles. I have also sounded the whistles in memorial. They are recorded from the sounding in Minnesota in 1996.
Perfect.
Right. We'll get the engines back underway and continue our stream as usual.
Alright. Resume course and speed. Captain Littrell.
Thank you. There we go. Ahead full.
All ahead full. Destination, that sunset.
Anywhere and everywhere.
Indeed. Well, just because people have really liked how the weather actually looks in this, now that we are through that, I'm going to clear up everything, get rid of all wind, all waves, all clouds. And we are going to adjust the graphics to make this look a little bit better, because it's a little too much of a rough surface at the moment. Then we go to, we'll call it 11:30 at night. There we go. And we'll set it back to 2012 because it doesn't like to run until it doesn't like to run back before about 1950 for some reason. So there we go. We have a nice evening view as it is. You'll see it on screen here in just a moment. But kind of mirroring James Cameron's shot on the evening of the 14th in his movie. Alrighty. Shall we continue then?
We shall. Beautiful view, beautiful night view. Yeah. To a couple of the newer people, I knew this might cause some confusion. My name is Matthew Smathers. I am an amateur shipwreck hunter and novice historian, Titanic collector. Spencer, Josh, you want to introduce yourselves and explain what we are looking at and why it is not the Honor and Glory?
Yes. A lot of people have mistaken us for the Honor and Glory team, which, as flattering as that is, we are not Honor and Glory. My name is Spencer Littrell. I am from North Carolina, and as with Matt, I am an amateur historian and have accompanied Matt on a couple of his amateur shipwreck hunts. There's a lot of stories to go with that. But no, we are not Honor and Glory. Josh, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I'm Josh Noble, and I've been starting the Titanic for some years, and I've been involved in the Titanic community in different ways. Most notably, the Titanic enthusiasts Facebook page, which is one of the largest Facebook Titanic groups out there, as well as the Southern Titanic Society, which focuses on the Titanic passengers from the South and the connections from the South of North America. And I've also helped with the Honor and Glory game. I'm on the website as a consultant. I've mainly contributed some things and stuff towards the script, but and some bits of information and things. So, but yeah, we are not officially Honor and Glory, but we are fans. We love the game. We just did the demo, so when this is uploaded, I would recommend that you go back and watch that. And right now, we're in a different simulation.
Oh,
that with more.
yes. What I was supposed to mention this. We are in vehicle simulation framework by Ilan Papini. It's been in development, although not totally actively in development, since the late 1990s. Runs in the DirectX engine, and the model of the ship that we are using at the moment is made by a third-party add-on developer who just kind of did this as a passion project. But this is not any sort of official Honor and Glory project. We did have somebody mention that they were wanting to see the second class spaces.
Yes.
I'm going to turn on the interior lighting.
Yeah.
I love second.
I know.
It's,
I stepped away for a quick second. I just saw it. Yeah. For anyone who has missed this, this is Vehicle Simulator. This is a very detailed model of the Titanic for Vehicle Simulator, but it pales in comparison to Titanic Honor and Glory. But for the benefit of everyone who's tuned in right now late, this is going to be re-uploaded to this channel, to this URL. So anybody who wants to see, sorry about that, anyone who wants to see what we were doing earlier with the Honor and Glory third demo, more than welcome to come back. We encourage it. Come on back and have some fun with us. But yeah, it's there. You just gotta go back in time.
Yeah, we'll switch back here in a minute. But this here would have been the...
Ooh, back in time. You know, someone should make a video game about going back in time to the Titanic.
And you know, that sounds like it's a pretty futuristic concept, kind of like all cybery and stuff, and like it could be made into a movie.
Yeah.
They should call their company Cyberflix.
Where I have an idea. What if it's you're a secret agent, you have failed in your mission to Titanic previously, you get sent back in time by an explosion from a German bomb during the Blitz, the London Blitz, and all of a sudden you're back in the Titanic, and this is your second chance.
Incorporating World War II into this? Oh, that's awesome. I've always wanted to know how we could incorporate World War II into a Titanic film. Oh, and Elijah on the comment thread, he says, "Would you call it an adventure?" Yes. An adventure out of time. Because the ship is out of time. That's brilliant.
Oh,
by George, you've got it.
That would make it to where World War I and World War II will happen if you fail.
And we can totally, oh dude, we totally have to play with history here if we're going to do that. We need to demote Adolf Hitler just to a mediocre painter. He's got to just stay as a painter. That would be glorious. However, we do need to have alternate history because you're going to change history. So I feel like there needs to be multiple endings. You know, only one good ending. Yeah. And Elena says that we need to have C-73. I mean, she's been talking.
Of course. Also so there should be a
clear. Is there anything special about C-73? What the heck?
And there should be a bald steward with a mustache named Smeddles.
Who is obsessive about seasickness.
I can tell you this much, though. We should not, under any pretense, have a silly woman named Daisy Cashmore who was almost completely useless and waste your time.
Oh, come on. We gotta find... Look, I mean, it's not like we could do anything interesting, like let them, explore the whole ship. We need to pad the runtime some. put her in there. Put her in there. She's you know.
No.
No, you need to pad the
someone else.
runtime. What you have
Anyone
to do
else.
is you have to
Anyone
have...
else.
No, I know what you need to do to pad the runtime. Get rid of her. What you gotta have to do to pad the runtime is have this weird side quest where somebody's planted a bomb in a cabin, and the player has to defuse it.
And well, I mean, I love. We need to make this like we can do another thing to pad the runtime. We can you know, put boxes and crates in the fourth funnel because, you know, it was a dummy. So there can't be any one straight ladder going up and down like the Titanic or, you know, the Queen Mary or anything like that. We got to have multi-level number 4 funnels, and there has to be obstructions. So it's kind of like a puzzle game.
Oh, and also to pad the runtime, add some story about a first-class woman stealing a steerage woman's baby as her own.
And even better, we can play off the movie Titanic. Remember how Caledon Hockley said in the background that there's so many thousands of tons of Hockley steel on Titanic? What if the dude she stole the baby for, what if that dude has inferior steel in Titanic? That would please the conspiracy theorists.
Oh, totally.
We can
totally.
steal Titanic's idea before James Cameron has it.
That's genius. I love it.
One problem, though.
Infamy.
We need a time machine.
Don't tell me it already exists.
Put it into DeLorean. DeLorean will work well.
Sweet.
I don't know if I have the plutonium necessary to make a time traveling DeLorean.
Dude, you're wrecking my game here, and it has
my flux capacitor ran out last week.
Plutonium on every street corner.
Bro, I told you to save the flux capacitor. You didn't need to go back in time to see Unis Honest replay so many times. They're saved on YouTube.
No, Matt, that wasn't where I was. I may have gone on a research trip.
Although, hey, while we're at it, you know, while we're at it, we definitely need to, you know, just kind of throw this little side bit thing here, like this painting. Got to be a painting, and it's got to be by the car, you know, so you can turn on the headlights and it feels interactive.
Okay, I've got a lot of people asking for Titanic in bad weather, so I'm gonna just.
Okay, so
I'm gonna
yeah, put us on the bridge and hold on for dear life.
How bad a weather do people want? That's the real question. Because
hurricane strength.
Make it really,
I can
really bad.
get pretty dang bad.
Perfect storm bad.
Perfect storm bad? Okay. Well, let's go. We'll start with something a little bit more reasonable. We'll go 36 knot wind and 13-foot waves. Just to start, or well, not 13 foot. These are bigger than 13 foot. I think I've got my. Yeah, no, it's pretty intense. And we'll add in thunder and lightning, and, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, I'm gonna have to turn up various bits of volume here to do this.
All right.
There we go.
Put that girl in a heavy storm. There we go.
There we go. Is this apocalyptic enough for y'all?
I'm like 30 seconds behind on the feed. There we go.
All right. Well, let's go. We'll go a couple more feet, and we'll kick it up to 43 knots for wind.
And you can sort of see why they enclosed that A-deck promenade. You know, the waves wouldn't really reach the high, but the sea spray would. And so yeah, that's why they included the quote-unquote Ismay windows. Was because on Olympic they had a bit of a problem with sea spray, from what I understand.
Their bows
but now
clearing the waves. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, we need huge waves. Huge waves. Bigger waves.
Bigger? Okay, we're gonna
How
kick it
huge?
up to...
Matt?
You can go up to 41
Bigger is
feet.
better. Titanic is the epitome of that. Ba-dum.
I don't think this is a realistic situation that we're in right now. Oh, good lord, it's airborne.
Jeez. Man, can you imagine being in the engine room when those propellers come out of the water and start spinning
Okay,
like
I'm
crazy?
gonna knock the waves back down to something at least reasonable. We were airborne. That goes beyond the realm of realism.
Yeah. Anybody? This is the reason.
This is why we can't have nice things.
No.
Josh, on a related note, do you happen to have any particulars on how bad the weather was on the journey back with Carpathia?
I know it rained. I know that it was.
Do you know
It
how...
was kind of bad, and there were some fears that among the survivors, of course, that maybe they.
Oh my God.
Um,
Jill's comment. She broke me. Jack, we're flying. We're flying. I'm broke. That broke me. I'm dead.
Somebody says, ship's doctor now says half the passengers are sick, and most of you know what film that came from. I'm just going to go ahead and correct that. Most of the passengers at this point would have been thrown off their feet into something pointy, and we'd have casualties at this point.
Captain, what's the situation below?
Well, half the passengers are sick, the other half are unavailable for comment. Why? I think you know.
I am, by the way, after this stream is over, I'm going to change the name so that it has like a list of the things that we've done, because this has gone so far from honor and glory. I'm just going to kind of make it a miscellaneous Titanic stream of some sort.
Yeah, this is sort of Titanic on ADD.
Yeah, no, this is when you have a sandbox to mess around with that involves a very nicely done model of Titanic. This is what happens.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why we can't have nice things. I'm going to go ahead and get myself in the wheelhouse, because the navigating bridge would be uninhabitable at this point. Honestly, I feel like with the overcast, having the shaders on is kind of being weird. Oh boy. Even in this kind of waves here, we're only at 15 feet, but you're still having the bow clear the water occasionally.
Oh my God. Hey, I apologize to anybody watching the stream who
expected that
who
do this.
Yeah, anyone who's tuned in just now wondering what the heck is going on with Titanic and why we're laughing and
watch Tom pop in.
At least the expansion joints are doing their job. Wow, they actually work.
All right, I've calmed things down now, because that was ridiculous. But
that was hilarious.
now, in the world of things that this sim can do that people are probably curious about, I'm going to see what happens when I hit real weather for now, just to see what the weather is like out in the Atlantic. And because it's middle of the night at the moment, it's like 12 in the morning, I'm going to just turn into tomorrow morning. But for some reason, they always have the fog way too low. It is apparently, wherever we're at, it is raining with 26 knot winds, 6-foot waves. So not great. Not terrible, but not great. But this feels a lot more realistic as to a North Atlantic storm than whatever silliness we were just doing.
Okay, so having just gone through that enormously rough sea, it is worthy of mentioning.
Now, you and everyone's dead.
Yeah,
They wouldn't even
everyone's
just
dead
be
now.
sick, they'd be dead.
We have fulfilled all our criterias for a Titanic memorial remembrance stream. We educated the people, we razzle-dazzled them with the luxury, we had a moment of silence, and then we effectively completely brought everyone back to Earth by making everyone laugh. We have fulfilled our duties, I believe.
If that's the case, good night. Just kidding.
Okay, so because today is also the day that Carpathia arrived in New York, I feel like it's not a bad thought to just kind of involve Carpathia for a minute. I'm gonna bring it in just for a second here.
Yeah,
bring
her in for a little side cruise.
Let's make it.
And I think maybe you could even end the stream on that note.
Yeah, we can probably call it a day here pretty soon. I honestly didn't know that the stream was even going to go on this long, so it's not unreasonable to wow, I've got so many ships. Here we go. Carpathia does not have her full interiors, by the way, just for everyone that's on the stream that might be wanting to see the interiors of Carpathia. I've actually never spawned this model in before. I have a lot of models that are like that, but I had never... oh wow, that is god-awful sound. Yeah, no, I need to fix that. Okay. I am turning off the engines on Carpathia because whatever mod this is, they don't have a realistic engine sound, and I'm going to have to mod that personally to fix that because that was atrocious. It has like a marine diesel engine sound effect for whatever it's doing. Nope. I ain't having that. So, yeah, here's...
Is there any way to run... Can you run her and Titanic simultaneously?
I can give it a go. My computer might burst into flames, but we'll see. Okay, someone want to spawn Titanic's nose in this way.
Let's be honest, Spencer. If as irreverent as we have been in the past few minutes, if your computer was going to burst into flames, it would have done so by now.
Oh,
that's a very fair point.
Well, I mean, the weather isn't as hard on this as trying to render multiple vehicles at a time. It's probably not going to burst into flames, but it might drop to like 5 frames per second. Oh, wow, it's actually handling this pretty darn well. All right, color me surprised.
There we go.
Color me surprised. It is actually doing well. I am going to move it slightly up to get Carpathia a little more alongside it. Are we doing a size comparison thing?
No, just have them sail past each other.
Oh, well, I mean, I spawned Titanic in right next to it, so.
Oh, well, that's okay. Have them sail side by side. It's all good.
Okay.
Makes for a nice little salute.
As far as Carpathia goes, though, it has that god-awful engine noise, so I've turned off the engines entirely. Titanic will just sail past it, I guess.
Okay.
Although, in the world of size comparisons, honestly, this is a thing that I've not thought about, like trying to illustrate to people before. We'll let Titanic get past Carpathia here, and then we'll shut down the engines for a second. I'm going to spawn in something else that might cause my computer to burst into flames. But if I can, I'll try and give people a direct size... Oh, this is kind of a neat-looking view, standing on the bridge wing of the Carpathia as Titanic goes past.
Would have been a very fascinating view. I wonder if the Carpathia crossed paths with Titanic at some point. Surely she would have.
I mean, prior to her construction. Or prior to Titanic leaving Belfast, maybe, but... I don't know. Carpathia was Cunard, and they were mostly based out of Liverpool, weren't they?
Oh, but they all sailed. They all kind of used...
Because, White Star Line put their headquarters in Liverpool, and then Cunard bought a building like in their path, like blocked their view of the sea with their own building.
Huh.
Yeah, Southampton.
Both had their headquarters in Liverpool at one point.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because when I went to Liverpool, I actually saw the headquarters building for Cunard and White Star, and they were both literally across the street from each other.
Isn't the New York headquarters for White Star Line a subway now?
Yes.
That just doesn't sit right with me.
I mean, you get a lot of modernizations, and White Star Line doesn't exist anymore. So, I mean, at least the building's still there.
That's fair. I'm trying to spawn in the Lusitania at the moment, just to give a size comparison. This might, because Lusitania also has full interiors. So this one might be a bit of a thing to try and spawn in. It's chugging away. Right? I don't know how this is even remotely close to possible. My computer is still running this at 40 frames per second. What? Okay. I'm never doubting my computer again. It's spawned both of these monsters in at the same time. But for a size comparison, that's not a bad visual. Let me try and get Titanic in a little bit closer to it, just so we can call it a little bit more of a side-by-side comparison.
Two beautiful grand dames of the North Atlantic, cut down well into their prime.
She doesn't look any bigger than the Lusitania.
Of course.
You can be blasé about some things, Josh, but not about Titanic.
Oh.
She's over 100 feet longer than Lusitania. Far more luxurious.
Yes, Matt. That's what? What? Just, I'm trying to get it to kind of line up with Lusitania a bit better. It's not having any of it. It's a bit better.
There's a beautiful image illustration from, I think it was the cover of the New Yorker, and it shows the sterns of the Titanic, Lusitania, and Andrea Doria side by side in New York Harbor, and
The
it's
Olympic or
no, it's the Titanic, Lusitania, and Andrea Doria.
Photoshop?
The stern view next to each other. It's an illustration. I think it's for the New Yorker or something, and it's a beautiful illustration.
Okay. Sorry, one second. I'm trying to get all of these guys lined up next to each other. Both of these ships lined up next to each other, and they're just really not having it. So I'm gonna.
Well, any responsible captain wouldn't let his ship get that close. It's really hard to parallel park an ocean liner side by side in the middle of the ocean besides another massive ocean liner.
That's fair, but I should still be allowed to do it.
Yes, but you should question whether you should. It's not whether you should or should not be allowed to do it. You do.
Here we go. Okay, we are almost perfect. There we go. Okay. And I'll turn the sim rate down. Yeah, no, there we go. That's not a bad comparison to try and visualize. Here, I'm on board Lusitania now. Oh, now my frames are really churning. They're
Yeah, you've got those two massive renders in screen, in the same proximity.
yeah, no, this is I've never done this before. This is pretty cool.
It's kind of interesting when you compare the two liners. First of all, Lusitania was more built with a Victorian style in mind. She was more of a Victorian ship, and Titanic was more of an Edwardian ship with a modern view in mind. The White Star Line was looking more forward, but Lusitania has a lot of Victorian elements in its look. And yeah, the White Star Line built their ships for comfort and for luxury, whereas Cunard built them. They built them luxurious and comfortable, but they also had a priority on speed, whereas White Star Line did not. They were legendary for their customer service, though.
Yeah, the Lusitania, don't get us wrong, the Lusitania was by far nothing to sneeze at. She was a beautiful liner. But
Oh,
yeah,
she was gorgeous.
speed was, I mean, that's why the Lusitania and the Mauritania were called the Greyhounds of the Atlantic, just because they raced across the North Atlantic.
White Star Line didn't even bother. That's why I sort of. That's why I sort of roll my eyes whenever people talk about how the Titanic was trying to beat some record or whatever. They weren't going to catch up to the Lusitania and Mauritania.
Yeah,
I mean,
it would have been a repeat. It would have been kind of a repeat of the incident that took place on board the Queen Mary with the SS United States.
yeah, I mean,
Were inbound to New York, and they challenged each other to a race, see who could get to New York Harbor first. The SS United States kicked its engines into full gear and left the Queen Mary in the dust. Same thing would have been with Titanic. If these two were set off at full speed right now, even the simulator would reflect that over the course of a short distance, Lusitania would surely be out of sight.
Here, let's
Well, you want to test that?
yeah, let's test that there. By all means, why not? I'll even give Titanic like a
Right.
moderate head start.
Gentlemen, start your liners. Yep. All
They're
ahead
both
full.
running.
Full ahead both.
They are both running full ahead. I will let Lusitania kind of pull away, and then I'll kick the rudder over to get them lined up a little better. There, we'll get a little bit of time acceleration going.
So we've got the Greyhound versus the Grand Dame of the Sea.
There we go. There we go. That was the weird sound I was hearing. Okay, and then I will kick the rudder over. And hold on, I will get the autopilot, getting them both running on a heading of 090.
Lusitania is already pulling out far ahead, and you sped it up. But yeah, there is no comparison between these two liners when it comes to speed. It's clear who the winner is. It's very clear who has the speed advantage. When you really put them full ahead and speed up the game, you can really see how far ahead the Lusitania is going.
And they are running on the same heading now, by the way.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Lusitania's got her.
And then just so we can guarantee that there's no external factors, I'm turning off wind, I'm turning the waves all the way down, so there's absolutely no weather variable here. And, oh, wow, okay, the cameras apparently speed up too when you're running in accelerated time. Yeah, the render starts looking a little weird as you get further out,
But yeah, Lusitania's she's got Titanic on speed. Of course,
yeah.
we already knew that.
I'm kicking it up to like 40 times faster than real time, and it's now you can very visually start to see it. I mean,
it's not obvious, but
like,
when you
give that 7 days to cross the Atlantic, and you know which one's
Yeah.
going there first.
Yeah. Is Titanic catching up?
Nope.
Or is she?
No,
She's
she's not.
slowly drawing away.
Yeah, she's very slowly drawn away.
Man, you have it so fast. They are they are flying across the water, literally, at this speed. Yeah, Titanic is dropping back. I can see it.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really cool. I'd never actually tried anything like this, so that was a fun little experiment to
Time and one time only, I ran Lusitania, the Titanic, the Carpathia, and the Empress of Ireland somehow without crashing my game. And I just set them loose on the same heading, and I let them go for a full 24 hours. Titanic wasn't anywhere in sight, nor was the Empress of Ireland. Lusitania just left them all.
Goodbye.
Yeah, the furthest one back though.
The blue ribbon.
Yeah, right. The furthest one back though was the Carpathia. I gave up looking for it. I just gave up looking.
This is a really good shot, though. You can see very clearly from Titanic's bridge, Lusitania is definitely pulling ahead a lot faster now.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a nice view.
Especially like all zoomed in like this. All right, and now because we have strayed, oh, just got left in the dust there. Well, okay, because we've strayed so far from our original purpose of this stream.
Yeah, so I feel like this might be good a place. We're just entertaining at this point. I feel like this might be ammunition for another stream, another day.
It might be. We might do a liner run through, because good lord, I have more than enough to cover a good portion of liner history just on this. But the one thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to take anybody around the interior because, hey, stream fuel for another day if we're down. What I'm going to do, though, just so Josh can see it and have his moment of loving it. Where is it? 37 version. I said that. Okay, 1935 is going to work better, apparently. But just so Josh can see it. And I'll also bring back some weather effects, just so not like bad weather effects, but just not a complete flat column. But just so Josh can see his baby, as it were.
Ah, yes.
The Normandie. We'll get
All right.
2 feet, and we'll leave it here. But yes.
Yeah, she was just an Art Deco masterpiece.
There she is, the Normandie. Which also, by the way, Josh, does have a very nicely modeled interior, as you'll see on stream here in just a second.
Oh yes, yeah, her interior. If you ever, on the Queen Mary, they have a cutaway model from Father Perron, and yeah, just outside and inside, she was beautiful.
Can't see as much of the interior in this model right now. I think I might actually not have its interior fully installed. Like, I have the bridge and a couple of things showing at the moment, but I don't think I've actually got its full interior model installed at the moment. And I'll fix that before we do a stream, so that we can actually show people around the Normandie a little bit.
Yeah, not enough people know about her. A lot of people just know Titanic, maybe Olympic and Britannic, and maybe Lusitania and Mauretania too, just because Lusitania and Mauretania were huge parts of the Titanic. Short life, and the Lusitania had an interesting disaster and career herself.
Oh, of course. I also have I have a thing that isn't available anymore. So I'm going to mention this, but people are going to want a download link, and all I can say, I don't have one. It's actually not up for download anymore, and I don't have any way to share a place to get this, but I would be willing to stream it. I have it was a project by somebody that was done in Unreal Engine, where they did a real-time syncing of the Lusitania in Unreal. And if people are interested in that, I would be willing to stream that.
A real-time syncing of what?
The
you cut out.
Lusitania.
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen that demo.
Yeah, I think I showed it to you while you were visiting us in January. So if people would be interested, I'd be willing to stream that as well.
For those of you who are interested, who like Art Deco and this sort of thing, I would recommend you guys checking out the French line and the Italian line, because they're underrated. The Italian line is mostly known for the Andrea Doria, but I would recommend checking out both those shipping lines, just because they built ships like this, and in the Art Deco, in the Art Deco style, which is one of my favorite styles. But yeah, they built masterpieces, really. This was the last of the age of the ocean liners, up until planes took over, I think in the 50s or 60s, as the main method of transportation across the ocean.
I have just we'll leave the stream on this. I don't know. We'll chat after the stream, maybe in the morning a bit about if and when we're going to stream again as a group. But I would be more than down to every now and then just stream a little bit of liner content on here, or even just generally historical ship content. Like Matt, you and I did World of Warships before. I'd be willing to do a lot of that.
No, I'm definitely down to blow stuff up. You know me. I'm not, okay, for the benefit of all here, I'm not as much of an avid gamer as I used to be, obviously, but I do enjoy me some World of Warships, and I do highly recommend that game. It's a free game. Shameless plug, but I do like that.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's
we could...
pretty concept.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm off the French coast, by the way, if you guys were tracking where I am. So that's France in the background there. All right. Well, we've been streaming for again a lot longer than we planned to.
We're not even on Titanic anymore.
No,
that ship has sailed.
We should just
maybe
what we do for the rest of quarantine, however long that ends up lasting. Once or twice a week, we come onto this channel. We stream some liner-related content for a few hours, just in the evening. You guys down for that?
Yeah. Why not?
And Josh, you obviously don't have to commit right now, but we can chat about it. Maybe we'll make an announcement post at some point if we're planning on doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm down for it. I think that's just about enough. I'm gonna get some dinner.
All right. Well, hey, everyone in the chat, thank you for watching. We've had a pretty consistent audience this whole stream. I mean, it's not been as high as Titanic VR, but I mean, we didn't have a 2-week advertising campaign ahead of us. But we've had between about 15 to 25 people pretty consistently for about this whole entire stream. So, for those of you that have been here this whole time, I really appreciate you guys being here, and we love having you around to chat and hang out, and just kind of love history together. It's a lot of fun. So, we'll see you guys whenever we're back on. We'll make some posts announcing it, and you guys can obviously subscribe to be notified when we're live again. And
also, want to just throw out there that when the replay is ready, we're going to put in the description for the video. We're going to put in to Josh's Facebook group, my Facebook group, Story Treasures, as well as a link to Honor and Glory's Patreon and website, just for the benefit of new viewers and for anyone who's actually stuck in here this entire time. You guys are amazing. Thank you for staying with us.
Of course. We really enjoy having you guys, and we will see you next time.